Hello, everyone. Good morning, fellow jackets and citizen detectives alike. We are back here for the Monday Morning Murder Podcast. I am Faye Fire, aka Erin, and I am here with my amazing co-host, the lifelong asthmatic, Miss Mandy. How are you this morning?
Hello, happy Memorial Day to those observing Memorial. Um, and hello to our friends in Canada, Peru, citizen detectives, our Yellow Jackets enthusiasts, and our tight knit crew. Glad to have you here this Monday morning.
Yes, thank you all for being here. We are excited. We are going to be discussing the season 2 finale storytelling of Yellowjackets, of course. And I have a lot of feelings. There are a lot of emotions and good, bad, sad, angry, all kinds of emotions going on. How did you feel about the final episode?
We definitely got a narrative this episode for sure from several people. There was a lot of self checks, reality, I think, with the characters and moments. It was too soon for me. Like, I really wanted another episode. But I feel like every episode has been the season finale in the past several episodes. So this one fit perfect in. We had great scenes connected with wonderful music and the storylines, the positions the characters are in. They're ready for a new pilgrimage out of their darkness, I feel, or into the darkness. But I feel like this episode was really about accepting that and going into the realities. So
There was a lot. Yeah, it was a big step for a lot. I mean, obviously, for everyone, in sort of a cyclical nature, I guess you might say, because we're seeing these effects, the trauma, the post-traumatic stress of, what they went through really affecting them in their older years. And yeah, it came out in some really volatile ways, but a lot of it still connected back to their younger selves. We could see those big connections being made, and so it was really interesting to watch, especially with Lottie and with Shauna. It was just all very cyclical. It was all one gigantic circle. I enjoyed it a lot. It was also really sad. And I have actually a lot of thoughts about Lottie in particular, but we'll get to her eventually. But yeah. Let's say good morning to everyone in the chat, or hello, good day, good evening, whatever time it is. You know what? Actually, while we're here, I was thinking about this morning. Why don't you guys drop in the chat, everyone, where you are from, where you're listening in from, and just so I can know, so I can have a frame of reference when I am envisioning you guys in my mind. But good morning, Mrs. Duncan the Tall. Hello, Delcinia, Kelly Jean, Juicy, Andy. Hello, good morning. Let's see, Eric M. Eric, haven't seen you in a long time. Is this Eric from our Warlord Chronicles friend? I certainly hope so. Let's see. Okay, I think we got everyone. I think we're caught up in the chat, but thank you all if you are here. Yeah, drop where you're from because I want to know. Okay. Oh, Yossi. Well, this is why we were servant friends. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here and spending your Memorial Day with us. It's very exciting. Before we get too far into it, I did post a little poll last night just to see. I just wanted to see who hurt you. Um, who hurt you guys in the Yellowjackets finale the
they
most?
all
So,
they all hurt. Every one of them hurts.
it's very true. Um, so the options were Javi, Nat, Lottie, or Coach, because Coach, he did a low blow this episode. But it turns out that, so we'll go, actually, surprisingly, Lottie had the lowest votes at 8%. Coach was at 14%. Javi was 18%. And Nat, of course, broke all of our hearts at 61%. So this is where our sorrows lie. I actually voted for Lottie personally. I mean, of course, I'm super sad about Nat, and I have a lot of thoughts about her whole story arc. But just kind of the crushing blow that came to Lottie at the end, I just really, it felt very sad and personal and yeah. So we'll talk about that. Who would you have voted for, or did you vote, Mandy? I'm not sure if you got a chance to.
No, actually, I didn't vote. I'm sorry. I've been really busy this weekend. I um I don't know who hurt me the most, to be honest with you. I don't think I can choose one more than the other. I would say maybe, I don't know, maybe it was Shauna that hurt me the
Really
most. Yeah,
surprising.
because I thought with her, she just wasn't very confident as normal, but like she usually, I don't know, I feel like she's the one who initiated the hunt, or like when she went to kill or blood drain. I don't know, she wasn't as outspoken. She was more like as the normal Shauna we get. So I guess her character being so insecure hurt me this moment. Because usually, like if she's been insecure, we know that, but she projects some sort of confidence in place of it. But
Mhm.
I feel like this episode, like she kind of knew she was going to be the hunted.
That's
So
really beautiful. Normally I'm the Shauna person, so that's actually really kind. Um, on behalf of Shauna.
no, I'm hurt by all of them differently. We'll talk about it. But I'm
Yeah.
really just, and I'm also in love with all of them differently. Like I am,
Yeah. Yeah.
my heart goes out in all ways.
I agree. Those scenes of Shauna were really intense and personal. I think she was feeling a lot of I think she was feeling a lot of feelings about like her dream that she had had about everyone ripping apart her baby and all of that. And like because I feel like Javi was sort of the equivalent. I mean, now that her child is gone, Javi is the child, and like
Yeah.
because he had been gone and then come back, it's kind of like um he should be a little more special or sacred. He shouldn't have been the one who was forfeit. It's really, really tragic that
We
that's what the wilderness chose, but also, kind of.
Yeah, we see all those the connections between her and Javi too, between that journal scene where she rips out a part of her journal to give to him.
Mhm.
She kind of took him over as a mother figure in many scenes actually. She's the one who saved his life initially when she told him to run. So
Mhm.
it is kind of a mother, like that's after her losing her child, and then now she's kind of covering her eyes but yet at the same time taking it on. So that is interesting to compare that to a mother having to, like she's like, hey, if anyone's gonna do this, it's gonna be mama.
Yeah, and especially because maybe that was part of, going back to like her dream state where she had envisioned everyone tearing him apart. And especially Nat. Nat was the one who looked the most kind of guilty about the whole thing in that dream. Like she was the first one that they did the close up on, and she's like trying to like wipe the blood away and all of that. And so I wonder if in that she's kind of like, I don't know, she's trying to take the guilt off of the whole group and just kind of carry it on herself, since she's already had this sort of trauma in her mind of something very similar. I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing to contemplate where her mind was, but it was really tragic. And if you guys watched my videos, I talked a lot about the Eleusinian mysteries and that whole scene with Shauna and covering her eyes, because that's part. And actually, I read that passage to you guys last week, where they talk about that, about the covering the eyes as part of the initiation rites. So it was really interesting that they included that in this episode. I was very happy about it. So sorry if you can hear some background noise. Um, but yeah, so Javi, I guess this is where we're starting, is Javi. Um, so yeah, Javi in general coming back, and Travis having to kind of process all of that. But also, that scene of the girls um standing outside, like once they give him his time to sort of mourn for a few minutes, but then Shauna gets the knife and they go and they stand, and it's so haunting, that scene of them like kind of standing on the porch and Shauna's standing there with the knife and Travis is like holding Javi's body, and they're just like ravenous. The girls are ravenous, and Travis is sort of like protecting his brother's body, but he also knows, like, what would you do if you had a crowd of like ravenous, like they played zombie, it is very like zombie energy where they were like, we're coming for that. And it's sort of a subversion of zombie because they're alive and they're coming after the dead body. So it's really interesting. But Travis himself, I think he gave, honestly, probably the best performance that he's given so far in Yellowjackets, but also probably one of the best performances of the entire episode, in my opinion. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion. I know not everyone's a big Travis fan, but what are your thoughts about that, Mandy? What are your thoughts on Travis and Javi and just all of it?
Yeah, I thought that. Well, I liked all his performance except for the no, no. It was so melodramatic. But I guess in that
Mm-hmm.
situation, I don't know how anyone else would have. I don't know how I would feel. It was kind of I don't believe it. I think he also felt guilty in a sense because he's the one who sent his brother to go. Um, and he's feeling relieved at that moment because he saw Nat, and then all of a sudden he comes and sees. She's like, "It wasn't. I'm so sorry. It chose." And I think that is also a good reflection on between Nat, between Van and Travis, and trying to talk to Travis. They're all really truly starting to believe in it. They're also making it part of the clan. And I think Travis became part of the wolf pack through this episode, and he came to the realizations that Javi, shouldn't be wasted. There's nothing that should be wasted, and that they need to value his efforts, and they need to value what's going on um, in the wilderness. They need to not make all of Javi's pain for nothing. So I think that this whole scene, and like you said with Zombie, the music just epic, and it's probably one of the most memorable scenes I think from the whole like series because it's just so deep. And now we're looking at cannibalism versus before when they did it out of necessity savagely, and now they're doing it consciously with rituals. I'm gonna drop your ritual in the chat video as well. So, or you are what you eat.
Um, what's really interesting too to consider is like how Travis had kind of initiated, like when Shauna was giving birth, it was sort of Travis who initiated doing the ritual, the blood ritual to the moose or to the skull. It was a moose skull. And um so we can see like he's drank the Kool-Aid, obviously, which is also a form of self cannibalism. Thank you, Lottie.
The gulu.
But
Gulu is what they called it. The gulu.
what's that?
The gulu. Missy called it the gulu. I didn't know what that meant.
The
Yeah.
oolong, yeah.
Oolong. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oolong.
I wrote that line down. I loved that. She's like, she wants to play Russian roulette with poison fucking oolong. But um but yeah, it was interesting that he's the one that initiated that ritual. So obviously, like he's all in with like the wilderness and the wilderness's choices and that kind of thing. But then it kind of came around, and when the wilderness chooses, his brother as the price, then you kind of it's like he wants to change his tune. You can kind of see that struggle within him. But then also there's the idea, like, I think what helped him kind of come to terms with it too was if it wasn't Javi, then it was going to be Nat. And so it's either his girlfriend or his brother. And either way, it sucks. It's terrible. But at least one of them came back. And I think that helped him make his peace with it, and also like not be angry with Nat also, because I think Nat was really afraid that he was going to like hate her after that and just despise her completely. But he was forgiving in a sense, he understood the wilderness chose, and he's already like taken on the wilderness. Yeah, like you said, he's joined the wolf pack. and Javi was the lone wolf. And you know what they say, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. So and Angel made this comment about the song Zombie is about a child who was killed in a bombing in the troubles of Northern Ireland. Yes. So it is about the Irish Civil War. But it's honestly so perfect for Javi that Mandy, would you like to elaborate?
Was it that we chose, or was it that choose us? What's our heads in our heads? We are fighting, 'cause Javi's dead. Javi's dead. Javi, 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 Javi. So we're actually we wrote a parody. I was supposed to record it this weekend, but I didn't. But it's coming. Although it's a very deep song, like she said, and it's very perfect for this. We're like, we don't even really need to change the words, but obviously in parody rules, you do have to change the words. But Hobby, Hobby, we love it. It's such a sad moment, really, truly, and just the whole thing.
Yeah, the lyrics to the song are quite fitting for like their circumstances and just everything, but it's a heartbreaking song. It was a good song choice. And it was our song choice, of course. I haven't brought up the thing, but yeah, we will. CC has a great question. I just had a thought. Do you think Lottie and company saved Nat from ending her life because of loyalty to their leader? Well, that's a good question. And we're going to get definitely more into like all of that later in the episode. We're going to kind of save the Nat's death scene for the end. But I do think that this is a great point. And I think they all sort of made acts of loyalty to her. Well, except Shauna. But
Yeah.
but her card very much rang true. So yeah, but like Taissa, she was the one paying for her to go to rehab, and Misty was like ever loyal to Nat, that whole thing of her bending her knee to her. She was her knight. That was her Lancelot. We have Sir Lancelot, but I think Sir Lancelot serves Lottie, the priestess. So he stays true to the goddess.
Yeah, I think also Misty, it makes sense now when I look back at season 1 and why they were all so protective of Nat. And then you see Taissa like, why are we doing with this? And then Shauna reminds her quick, like, she got us out, like, she's your queen. Now that I see that, it makes more sense. But like she paid for the rehab, and Misty coming in like a bee, saving her with her stinger. I love that part. So, effortlessly, like a knight, like she was just ready to go, ready to stab.
Mm-hmm.
But the most thing that hit me the most is that they couldn't do anything. And it was like the Yellowjackets, how they actually kill their queen, or they let the queen die and a new one is born. So we have we're going to make a poll on who we think the new queen will be too. So
yeah, good. Well, we definitely have a lot of thoughts about that. I have a lot of thoughts about everything that happened in the woods. The forest is ours tonight. Yeah, a lot went down there.
I would say good catch on us, or you started the idea, but like I definitely agreed that we knew that they were going to end up back in the woods. So
yeah,
and how man, Jeff trying to save his wife, but they're like, hey, yeah, good play.
Jeff, is ever the himbo. He played his himbo part, but honestly, I will be honest, the men really kind of stole the show this episode. They all did an excellent job. Travis, Jeff, Walter, I think Walter kind of stole the show. But they all did an excellent job, really being the backbone of sort of the things that the women are going through. It was really interesting to watch them.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that, and I feel like in this whole setting where we're getting the destroying of the queen, and yet the whole Nat becoming the queen in 96, and with that, Travis is obviously the king, and in my mind at least, like they roll together. But And this, in the present day, we see the kings of Shauna. We see the kings of Misty with Walter. Um, Walter is giving me like mad Hermes vibes. I would like Walter to end up being Hermes somehow. But
Mhm.
Misty and Walter, that whole connection there and how they showed up. And I feel like Misty might be the new queen, to be honest with you. Like, I'm feeling like she might get that because she technically did kill the queen. So we'll see. But you're right on how they were all backing her. Like the men played significant roles this
Mhm.
episode, and it's setting up the court, the royalty, because in hunting, the hunt is it savage and primal, or and then it started off as basic needs, and then now it's getting to the point where it shows that. I mean, the hunts used to be a big thing for royalty and rich, and to show like and show your wealth and show that your status. So now I think
Mhm.
we're getting the hunts to be more a status thing. I think we're going to end up with that. And now we have
Yeah.
the royal court.
I had this thought also that like I don't know. It kind of just crossed my mind, and I don't know if it has any weight whatsoever. But like when I was watching Nat burn the cards of the other queens, it kind of also reminded me of the idea of the Yellowjackets queen, or the bee queen, like they killed the other queens, right? So I kind of had this thought of like, what if all four of the queens do end up being relevant? Like, what if that's sort of like what we're left with at the end? Or maybe that's like the final showdown is there's going to be the four queens and they each kind of embody like one of the suits or something like that.
Yeah, I agree that not just the suits, the elements, when we talked about
Yeah.
before, the elemental, and even like me with the elemental deck, like I just feel like that's a really Grecian thing to
Hmm.
start with. And then, well, it's primordial to be honest. But yeah, I think that that's a great idea. I love it. Um, During that whole scene, I thought that her and Shauna were cheating at first, to be honest. I thought that they were, because that's what you do is you mark a card somehow, or you bend it, or you break it for card counters or cheaters when they're actually cheating in like poker games. So I thought that that's what they were doing. But then on the second watch back, I saw that Shauna was dulling the knives as
Hmm.
well. So then it kind of made sense. Oh, they're trying to trick her.
Yeah. Shauna was dulling the knives, but I don't know. Did you guys think that that knife that Nat had and kind of put in her pocket, I think that was not dulled. I think that was
Yeah,
like a legit knife.
I agree. I think Shauna knew, and Shauna gave him that energy. Like she gave him the energy twisting the card. She gave the energy like of not strength, and I think that that's why it chose her because I feel like it wants to go after who's ever the most vulnerable, and then the
Mhm.
queen, whoever has the most power. Like Callie might be the queen now because of the power situation, but
Mhm. I have a
the
lot of thoughts
the
about that.
confidence and even Ty during the scene, she was super confident when she's like, "Are we really doing this?" Then she pulls the card and she's like, "See, told you." Like she gets really and during that
Well,
flashback too, you don't see the child, you don't see teen Ty, you see the teen versions of all the rest, but you only see adult Ty, which I don't know if that's
mhm.
something or not, but it was like citizen detective notice. Oh, go ahead. Oh, sorry. But
Sorry,
yeah,
I have kids trying to break in back here.
your
Um,
turn.
I think they're pulling my curtain through. Anyway, children are devils. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about Callie and about Shauna. I'm working, that's going to be my next video for you guys is about Callie and Shauna. And I have the audio recorded, but I was thinking that if we kind of come up with some interesting revelations here, then I might re-edit it. Sorry, my son's back here. But yeah, there's a I don't know. We have a lot to contemplate. I even have a lot of thoughts about with Callie, with what happened out there, but not only Callie, but also with Lisa and just that moment in the woods and what they entered into, the energy space and all of that. So I have a lot of thoughts. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. But let's start actually. Let's talk about Callie and Jeff, and they are going to. Well, actually, before we get into that, Mandy, we have one task for you.
Oh.
You want to read our episode description?
Yeah. Hold on, I gotta like make it bigger because I'm not wearing my glasses. Okay.
I don't send these to her in advance. Good on her.
Storytelling. Heavy is the head that wears the antler crown, is a lesson you don't learn until much later in life, if you ever even learn it at all. Everything's about to get really wild wilderness. And we're so excited and so scared to find out who paid attention to what lessons and when. So, on the count of 3, you may pick up your pencil, open your testing booklet, and start this final exam. 1, 2, 3. Un, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, cinco, seis.
I thought you would do an excellent job on this one because it's kind of eerie. And also, citizen detectives, have you been paying attention? I think this episode description was like made for us. So, and I
Yes.
also love the antler that's down at the bottom. Looks like an Italian hand, just for Nat. So
You're so ridiculous.
I
Okay.
know.
What?
What? Anyways, okay, so let's get into we'll start talking about Callie and Jeff. And so they decide that they are going to go up. They need to go and talk to Shauna, obviously. Probably a good idea. But I love how dumb they are, because they're literally like being followed by the police the whole way. And I mean, I don't know about how the rest of y'all live your life, but if a cop is behind me, I fucking know. If there's a cop like in my general vicinity, I'm like, oh shit, okay, I'm always watching. Even if I'm not rolling dirty, I just know, okay, because I'm afraid of them. But anyways, so it's just laughable to me that because they are in a very like obvious vehicle, it's not like an undercover vehicle. It looks very much like either an old man's going to be driving that or a cop. And so they followed him all the way up, and of course they didn't even notice. And again, going back to Jeff being himbo of the year, he's like, talking to Callie and saying, oh well, we can never Google ourselves again.
Hey.
And then he says, I've got the gun. And she's like, what? Mom had a gun? And he's like, well, and then he takes it from Shauna's glove compartment and he hides it in his glove compartment. It's like, come on, dude. So what did you think?
But you can't hate on Jeff. Jeff is just, forgive him because he knows not what he does. He doesn't know better, and he's doing whatever he thinks is the best, I think, and which is kind of also a Shauna move because she doesn't know better, and she's doing what she thinks is the best, or she's just doing it because she doesn't know. But he like at least feels like, I think he did that on purpose though, because he wants to take the blame if it has to happen, and which he did. He was like, I have a plan for this, Callie. So he did plan out that he was going to take Shauna's, protect her. Like I've said, I knew that he would do this, and it's pretty apparent. It's just that character, and I have to love him. I used to, season 1, I hated Jeff. Season 2, I absolutely love him, and I stand him, and I'll fight you, Faye. Don't make me come over there with my stinger. Okay, and my, barbital solution.
Don't get me wrong. I love Jeff. Don't get me wrong. I just love how dumb he is. He is like the sweetest little dumb, innocent guy that's so interwoven into this whole situation and just has no clue like how to handle any of it. And so don't get me wrong. I love him. He's a good looking man. He's a good husband to Shauna. He's got her back no matter what. He is, and all of the Sadekis are terrible criminals. They are not good at being criminals in the slightest.
It runs in their DNA. That's one of their generational curses. Terrible criminals. Or they're prey. They're the prey, not the hunt.
Well, we can just hope that Callie is a cycle breaker, right?
We'll see.
Although I don't know. I think she's sucked into this big time. And, just listening to her dad too, like Callie's smart. She's not a dumb girl, and she's got more of her mother's instincts in her than I think Jeff's. And so when she's like listening to him talk, and she's like, Jeff, he's so funny because when they're in the car, he's like, well, we'd have to get a bunch of fake passports and we'd have to, to get over the border. And then we would never be able to go eat at our favorite restaurants and we'd never be able to Google ourselves and all of this. And Callie's just kind of like rolling her eyes. She's like, how often do you Google yourself? And what are we supposed to do? Just let mom go to jail? Like Callie's ready to like take some action. She wants to, do whatever she has to do to make sure her mom is safe. And Jeff, yeah, he's more like symbolically kind of throwing himself on his sword as men do. But Callie's like, no, she's going to go at it from a different way. And she gets the gun. She takes it with her. So, like mother, like daughter. Am I right? So let's see. So she runs into Officer Syracuse on the trail, which is like, he's just lurking around on the dark trails. Like they follow them up there, which is creepy enough. And also I like how Kevin's like, oh, we only followed you because you wouldn't tell us where Shauna was. But I'm pretty sure they didn't even like really ask. She's just like, he just said she was at a spa. But that was kind of, from what we saw, it didn't go any further than that. It wasn't like they were pressing him to tell them where she was. So yeah. And also I want to go back to the beginning when Callie first met Matt/Jay when he was unofficially undercover. So there's just a lot of questions of like how far they're taking this. Are they following the appropriate rules? Because even Kevin says that they were doing things that weren't necessarily by the book. He says that to Walter. He's like, oh, well, you'd get along really well with my partner. So Mandy, what do you think? Do you have thoughts on what the heck he's doing? Do you think they're playing by the book, or do you think they're, because like, I don't know, they just seem really kind of off the radar following them up there,
Yeah. So part of what I think is happening, to be honest, is that a lot of people just didn't like the whole cop involvement in this whole scene behind. And I think that they had to end that storyline quick. I think the writers had to choose to because a lot of people weren't following it. So this is kind of a in-between mix of let's give this some storyline and let's see where we can leave it open, because this what happened here. The writers at least can leave it open. There was a lot of hate about it, or people saying that they didn't like the storyline. I actually did enjoy it personally because if you saw the little context clues like Adam Martin and the maps and the signs like that, I mean, you could see how it connects, but I just don't think a lot of people were open to that storyline. And so I feel like they did do a lot of things off the book, or he tried to do it on the book, but it kind of ended up where she wanted to trick him, or she wanted to say, hey, you were trying to take advantage of me. And he said, no, we'll see. But he knows that in the court of law, you can, believing is everything. And then I think that's the same thing with it. And what was supposed to be featured here is that believing is everything. And when she started putting on this persona and acting and saying, who are they going to believe, you or me? And she started acting all sweet, and that he started to feel the fear. But at this moment, he was feeling more fear from Walter giving him panic and calling him like that. So I think that this was also a part of the initiative for all of them to face their demons this season. So putting those two running into each other like that was everything, because they all have like their matches with their inner voice or their demon, or whatever you want to say, call that it factor. But they're opposites who were giving or I guess the antagonist for them this season. So
yeah, I mean, I think like obviously the cop storyline was not the greatest, but also it was obviously like kind of necessary. I don't really know. I feel like it was a little bit clunky, and the way that it's been left, like that was just a little too easy, I feel. And with how invested Officer Syracuse was, and also how much hate he got, like he is so viscerally hated by the fandom. Like everybody, hands down, does not like him. I don't think there's one person that's like, oh, I love this guy, he is just, but you need characters like that, right? Because they keep the story interesting. And we like, if you have an emotional investment of how much we actually like hate this guy, then, you know, they've got a reason to keep it going because we all like despise him and he's already got, you know, a spot going on. So I don't think that the whole storyline with Adam is over. I just feel like that was
Yeah.
way too easy, you know, and I don't think that Syracuse is going to give up that easily because he's just like very invested for whatever his reason is. And he also knows so much that like I feel like he's I don't know. I don't think he's just going to give up. I think he's going to
Maybe.
try and figure out like who Walter was or what the hell, you know, because now he's like, okay, they've got these weird purple people like covering for them and doing weird stuff, and now Kevin's dead, which also like is very interesting, you know, because Kevin is a cop, but he's also like we've gotten to know Kevin throughout this show. He has a son. We've met his son. You know, he has like an ex-wife and all of this. He was dating someone, like he brought some woman with him to the reunion. We don't know, you know, was she a schoolmate or not, but there's a lot to Kevin. And so for them to just kill him, like I don't think that's just gonna.
Yeah. So I think well, first with Sarkusa, I do like it. They did leave it open for him. And they do have the option to bring him back later on. And since I was talking about the king and queen, it just kind of popped in my head, you know, for shit or for giggles and some theory idea, you know, let's think maybe what if Sarkusa sees all this, comes back like Walter did. He sees and found that they were all these serial killers. I think Sarkusa already knows the facts here, but we're just, you know, he knows and he just keeps getting evidence or something to take him off trail. But maybe Sarkusa will join the hunt. Maybe Sarkusa will become Callie's king. Who doesn't know? You know, this is a pretty crazy show. And it was really crazy that they killed Kevin, like you said. Kevin Tan, man, let's have a moment for him because I was invested in him. I did like him, and I liked him with Nat. And thank goodness that Nat is not alive to find out he's dead. But is Nat really dead? Because in this whole story of rebirth and whatever, you know, maybe we're gonna get some haunting Nat or something. We'll see. But it wouldn't be surprised me if we're getting some more flashbacks of that because during her scene we got flashbacks, and now her and Walter kind of embraced the truth too, like the truth he already knew, kind of like Sarkusa. So I don't think Kevin was quite embracing the truth though. What do you think?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, I agree. Like I still think Kevin was still kind of trying to play by the book. And so I think you know, it'll be interesting to try and frame him for the whole thing, but also like yeah, again, like Nat, if Nat was alive, she would be so tore up over Kevin's death. She would be angry. And you know, I was thinking about it, it's like Kevin and Nat were like best friends when they were growing up before the plane crash happened, you know? And so I was thinking about like their teenage selves, right? And just thinking about how like you know Kevin admitted he always was like in love with Natalie when they were growing up, and so can you imagine how upset and distraught he was when the plane crash happened and he sort of lost her originally. And so it is very tragic. There's a lot of tragedy with these two and all of like Nat's love interests, but yeah, the more you kind of think about Kevin, like he's not just this one-dimensional cop character that we were kind of given this season. And I will kind of, yeah, as a criticism, I would have liked to see a little more depth to him rather than just kind of good cop bad cop, because we saw much more to him in season 1. And
I
I
think we
think
did
that,
though.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I think we did though. Because I feel like this, like I was saying, he's embracing the truth, Walter, and he's like trying to invoke the truth. Whereas Kevin knows the truth, but I think he is denying it, or he's always kind of sheltered the girls. He's always gave Shauna the ahead of time. He's played the whole, you know, cop. Yes, he's chasing her and doing his job, but I think he's been really lenient, you know, with giving them options and giving them more time or telling them, hey, we're gonna invite you to the station, or hey, we're gonna have to search a like I think he's a lot more patient and with all the girls knowing that.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that he probably, I think he believes that Shauna did it, and I think he's always believed Shauna did it, but he also, yeah, kind of denied it or kind of dragged his feet to sort of protect her because she's close to Nat and just because of everything they'd gone through. So yeah, they're like, I think in the first episode of the season or whatever episode they start showing Syracuse in, it was like the first or second episode. Um, you know, what was I going to say? Oh, he asks him if he was if he's too do you have a conflict of interest or whatever, which I think is really funny coming from Syracuse, seeing how his whole like way in was a conflict of interest, right? Like seducing a teenage girl to get your in, is just very like, just all of it's sort of, I don't know how legit this is or if things would be admissible and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel like it's also like kind of, again, that are you accepting the darkness or are you not? And if you go back to like the Carl Jung and stuff, like it will take you over. It could eventually kill you. Mm-hmm. Literally, they're taking it that far. Yeah. And I think that there's something there with all this, especially with the male characters. There's more to it. And they kind of left us hanging. Like there's not enough of anything for us to be like, okay, it's for sure this way. That Barton Ashling trickster energy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, guys. Now here's the trick question. Here's your trickster. Here's your if you've been watching the channel, especially going back to the servant days, I want you guys to pick out, and also throughout this stream. So I want you guys, there are two big hints here in this picture as to the fact that Kevin is going to be killed. So, or that death is coming. So I want you guys to name in the chat what the two big hints are in this picture that tell us that Kevin's about to die. I want to hear it. Because I will, I don't know what I'll do. I don't have any rewards on hand, but I'll highlight your name and give you a shout out. So
we'll send you infinite, you're part of the wolf pack.
Yeah, we'll send you like good vibe from the wilderness, okay?
What is that? What is that called when you don't get voted out of the island from Survivor? What's it called? Practicity, something itchy.
Immunity.
But how do I know that? You get immunity. And I was thinking of the differences between like when this came out or in '96, like Survivor, and like because I was watching Naked and Afraid this weekend, and I'm like, that'd be me in the wilderness. I think I've said this before, but just the differences between Survivor and Naked and Afraid. Anyway,
there's a lot of similarities. You know what? There are a lot of similarities with outwit, outlast, survive, or outwit, outlast, outsmart, or whatever the fuck they say.
Or like
anyway,
dog. It's a dog eat dog, wolf eat wolf world here. Eat or be eaten.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Survivor is like a pretty fitting element to survival in the wilderness. So, okay, let's see. All right, let's check the chat here. Who's got it? It looks like Walter and Walter. No. Let's see. He took a cup from someone in the cult. Okay, so the two correct answers are from Miss T and from Karina Herrenberg. So Miss T, the color of the cup, what is it? It's green. What does green indicate? Or what is it symbolic of? Is the green man, which is the cyclical nature god who he dies each year, and his whole thing is life, death, and rebirth. So we learned this during Servant with Julian because he loved to have a lot of green man symbolism, and it turns out he was he was. Anyway, so, and then Karina says there's a door in the background. Come on.
Yes. Lots of doors everywhere. I mean, this whole, that's what I was thinking last episode too, is just the doors connecting because they say, oh, shut the door and Javi's coming. I feel like they've opened the new door to close it, but now that this episode they've opened the door again to open it back in, and I feel like they flip it every episode. But anyway,
Mm-hmm. So
the
perfect. Thank
green.
you guys. Thank you, Miss T and Karina. You guys are awesome. You are super smart. And thank you for you know, either listening in on us or just having your own personal genius within. um okay. So yeah. Oh yeah, good point actually, Karina. I didn't think about that. Jackie's drink of choice. She does love hot cocoa. That's another good point. I didn't even catch that one. So I love
That's
how
good.
we're just rampantly like running around killing people with phenobarbital now. This is like the thing that they do. Like,
Yeah.
all right, this is their drug of
Whoa.
choice. All right.
That was so last season now.
I know. Honestly. So okay, well, let's see here. So we have talked about, well, we can talk a little more about
Walter.
Walter, I guess, while
Yeah,
we're
we haven't really.
so
I love
Walter just
Walter.
I mean, he just like showed up and he just really like saved the day. He
He's my
wasn't messing
favorite.
around. He was just there to do business. And he had a plan. Like this
Well,
this doesn't strike me as Walter's first rodeo, okay? I don't know what your thoughts are.
he had the narrative, and that's why I think there's storytelling, the narrative. There's lots of storytelling going on throughout the whole episode, and Walter had it. And not only did he have so he's singing the songs from the musicals, he's bringing it back. He came back and told, he just happens to be there. That's why I said Walter gives me mad Hermes vibes, like mad. And especially with his pursuit of knowledge, Missy goes on about. But there's, it's so funny because when you check his voicemail, he's like, or what was it like? Ha! You didn't get me. It's Walter. You didn't get me. Ha! So I think that he is like this kind of Hannibal Lecter, rich fella that knows a lot of stuff, that has all these fun things about him, but he's just great. And I love it when he meets Jeff because he's just like, hi, Jeff. I'm assuming he knows the whole story. He knows the background. Not only is he creating the narrative like Misty, likes to create the narrative. And you see the narrative hit her at this point, but he's just like so nonchalant about it. He's just playing a game to Walter. It's him putting a puzzle together.
Yeah, I love it. I love that he's, one of the storytellers. He's already got it worked out in his mind. He showed up there with a plan. He's there to save the day, which is like so sweet. And I love that comparison to Hermes, especially because we see his feet so much and they're camouflaged. So there's kind of like that idea because Hermes has wings on his feet. He's super duper fast. Hermes is a messenger god. And so that totally plays into all of his symbolism, and then the pursuit of wisdom. I love that. That's really great. And it fits in with the Greek mythology as well. And we have to wonder, how far does this go? Like, is he into like the cannibalism, or is he just a straight up serial killer? Or how did he like know this about? I mean, we still have a lot of questions. Obviously, like, he was prepared for the purple, he had a purple outfit. He knew where to go. He had it all worked out. So he's obviously like, he knows his way around there. And him and Lottie didn't actually cross paths, but he knew where like Lottie's office was, where all the important stuff was. So there are definitely some big questions still about Walter, but and even Misty didn't think to ask. And that's one of the things about Misty, like, for as organized, as good, and all of that about her skills, like, she's kind of dropped the ball several times this season. And so but Walter's kind of there to clean up the mess. Like, maybe he's seeing more than we know. So I don't know.
She's distracted by him for sure. Like, I mean, you're in love, and she's seeing that, but also it's it's like that inner voice again, getting him right now. Sorry, my child, but it's like that inner voice that he always was to her, and I think that it's gonna come into play. I did have the idea that maybe he was just a figment of her imagination, like Crystal, because I kind of still feel like, what happened to Crystal? Where's her body? What, was she just an imaginary friend again? But then now this scene with Jeff, he's appearing and they see each other. There's more characters that see him, so it's an interesting take on what they're going to do with the storyline. But now that, like, is he able to be seen by whoever needs him, like a Hermes vibe? Like,
Mhm.
is he that messenger? We will see.
You know what's
Sorry, give me
funny
one
too
second.
that crossed my mind also was Nat when they're in the woods and um she's like, did we lose you, Mandy? I don't see you on here anymore. So when they're in the woods, Nat says, who called, like when they're talking about who called the psych team, and Misty says, well, we called them, and she says, who's we, Misty? And then going back to, earlier in the season when Misty shows up and Nat's already at the compound, and she's like, who the hell is this guy? And it's always like, who is this guy? Who's Walter? Tell us about is he like it's all these questions even Nat had like so many times. Who is this guy? And what's his deal and all of this? And she never gets to find out. And that's what's really interesting. Nat will never know about Walter or like more details about him. It's just always like kind of a question. Maybe she doesn't care that much, but I thought it was kind of interesting and noteworthy that she was constantly like, who's we? Who's this guy? What's his deal? All of this kind of stuff. Where did he go? Where was that guy you were with? So yeah, I don't know. He's a freaking character, that's for sure. Oh, I don't hear you, Mandy. Let's see.
There we go.
There we
Angel
go.
asked in the chat the obsession with milk. Do you want to talk about that? Like
Let me
milk?
see. Milk? Like the drink milk? Hold on.
Yeah, isn't that's like your favorite serial killers?
It
Serial
is.
killers.
Sorry, I don't see the.
It's a serial killer, that milk.
Yeah, that's
You,
kind of a trope in
I'm
horror
sorry.
movies and that kind of thing. We see it often, like who does the milk thing? The guy in No Country for Old Men. I don't know. They do it in several movies. It's kind of like a serial killer trope kind of thing.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
also like so when wait, what was I looking at?
We'll
I'm
catch up in
sorry
the
I got
chat.
off.
And we've got about 40 people here watching. So thank you all for being here on your Memorial Day or just your regular Monday. But let's say hello to everyone. So
To
we've
the
got
coven, there's a coven of them.
Yes, I love that. I loved that line. He's like, "There's a whole coven of them, and
I
they're
knew you
they're up to
would.
no good."
I was like, Aaron's going crazy with that line.
I lost my mind. Like the whole thing, and then like the scene with Lottie. I have screenshots, but the transition where Misty convinces Lottie to eat, and she starts eating, and then they transition to Lottie, adult Lottie, having that like sort of she's coming into herself, like the magical
Yeah.
energy and all of that, and
The
they're playing
magic is real.
that
Magic
song.
is
Yeah.
real.
Oh
What
my
song is
god.
that? I don't know what it's called. Does anyone know what that song is called? It was really deep. Like that
I
song was perfect for that, and it just Lottie's face, like you could tell she was in
mhm.
that zone, in the ether.
She was opening herself back up. And so let's talk about Lottie because I have a lot of thoughts about her. I have a lot of Lottie thoughts about her. So let me get over to some pictures of my dear darling Lottie. Because she really went through it this episode. And so younger Lottie, she's still kind of recovering and um she's regaining her strength and hold on just a second, let me pull this up. And so and Misty comes up and she tells her like this is what's happening, this we played a card game, and she kind of starts to tell her the details, and then she's like, actually that's just not important, like what happened is that Javi's dead and we're gonna eat him. So and then Lottie's like, whoa, what the F? And what's interesting is Lottie later tells us that she can't hear the wilderness anymore. And I thought that was really interesting because, in the last episode, she kept having those like flashes where she was seeing what was going on around them and seeing even out on the lake. So she was still having visuals. So I thought it was really interesting that all of a sudden she's like, oh, I'm not hearing the wilderness anymore. But yeah, but then, Misty's like, well, don't start making people feel bad about this because this was, your idea. You're the one that tapped into the wilderness to begin with. You're the one that like brought out these instincts in us. And now, everybody's like cross this line. So don't start making people feel bad now that you've been up here, not part of this. Don't come down and because that's also a way to set yourself apart, like we saw with Coach or with Jackie, where you don't want to be the outcast of the group because then they can focus on you, then they'll focus their
Yeah.
energy on you or their viciousness. So I think that was also part of why Lottie was like, why Misty was telling her like, get it together.
And also she's like, again, controlling the narrative when she came down and even said, Lottie's pleased with the hunt. She's pleased with the wilderness choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of that storytelling and
Mm-hmm.
more involved. Like, I love how just they give you like digestive we didn't see, and then when you go back and you see and look at all the ways people are digesting every episode this season has given you directive on what they are embracing and saying in so many different ways. And this whole storytelling, whether it be lies and whether it be Jeff's storytelling or Lottie's story, like I didn't want it to be that way, but I think also Lottie is, she's always opposition in a sense, or sun and moon, she's always just trying to either carry or like stop them from doing this. But she does have, Missy calls her out. She's like, you got to start, you're the one who started this.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to finish what you started.
She's the one that can hear it. And um I think it's really interesting that she pointed out that she can't hear it anymore. And then later we see it like in the woods where she's like, listen, can you hear it? What do we hear? And her whole thing. And so I had this idea of like, what if Lottie, from this point, whatever happened, maybe it was because of the fight that happened, she had some head trauma or whatever. What if she no longer is able to hear the wilderness from here out until that later moment where they're in the forest as adults at her compound? Um, Especially considering like all the psychiatric treatment that she went through after they're rescued, and electroshock treatment and all of those kind of things to her brain that are gonna like physiologically change your brain. I just, yeah, I don't know. I just had this idea of like, what if she's now going through this kind of like a pilgrimage, as we see later, all the girls are physically put into a pilgrimage. But what if Lottie is also kind of spiritually on one where she's no longer able to hear, God per se, somebody that she's been really tapped into. And now all of a sudden that's taken away from her. And what she was also valued amongst their group for was her connection to the wilderness. So, but she even admits, she's like, well, at least I taught you all how to hear it. And it doesn't need me anymore. And so I don't know, it was pretty kind of a tragic idea to toy with.
Yeah, they all kind of hear it differently though, whatever it comes to as them. And they're coming to that realization and awakening that, hey, it has been with them the whole time. And Lottie feels like she lost it there. It was literally beaten out of her, like Kelly Jean said. Shauna Dunn beat the schizophrenia right out of her. I know, but it's true though.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, she did have, none of them were allowed to believe in it when they left the wilderness. A lot of it was suppressed, and I think that's the whole tone of the show, is that these suppressions of illnesses in those times, and like now people are a lot more open to discuss them and accept them and see them, but they were very suppressed, and it takes over. And if you suppress the wolf, what wolf you feed takes over. The whole thing, the whole story is like this.
Yep.
And this is a great embodiment of her, perhaps. And like you said, the justification or the juxtaposition between 96 and present is really showing that with that. And I think it's going to happen more. I do like the idea that now she's going to be able to hear it. I think she's been hearing it little by little, but now like that whole awakening moment in her office, she was like connected again. She's like, I can see again completely. So it's going to be good where they take it. And I would like that, what you said, to happen, for it to be singing to her in a more sense, or her to be directed to take Callie because she was so crazy about Shauna's baby, how it was going to
Mhm.
change everything. But now she sees Callie, this your daughter? I think she's going to maybe have a lot of influence on Callie in the future. And I think
Mhm.
she's going to try to take Callie in a sense of loyalty from Shauna,
Mhm.
believe in Callie the way Shauna never believed in her. Lottie's going to start because she's starting to believe in herself the way she couldn't believe in herself. And I think as a shamanistic role she has as a wounded healer archetype, she's going to start applying those methods, not just in her, but in her daily life to others, because that's what they naturally do.
Mhm.
She's going to project that journey. And Callie's about it because Callie's kind of in that journey herself, where she's just position of what she was before.
Absolutely. And we kind of saw it in this moment. Like it was interesting because Callie is the one who shot Lottie. Um, but okay, so let's talk about this. We're gonna get into this conversation. So Callie, she shot Lottie. She comes and she rescues her mother, and when they're standing there in that moment, and blood is being spilled to the ground, which is what the wilderness wants. It's an offering in essence because Lottie's been shot, so blood is being shed. And then moments later, Lisa comes out and she's got the gun and she's holding the gun at Nat. And all the while, all these things are happening. And Lottie's like, listen, it's here with us. Can you hear it? So the wilderness is there with them. They're in this like kind of energy zone and they're all standing there together. And then, like, when Nat is killed, we have to visualize like a portal's being open, a portal of life and death. The doorway is open. And this is all like symbolic of things that we have seen in the wilderness while the younger girls were there. So what I really think is now we've got both Callie and Lisa have the wilderness in them because they were there when it was happening. They were there in that moment of life and death. Now they are both like the older women. They're a new generation of this. And Callie, she's got the wilderness in her. Like you can't convince me otherwise. She's going to be like her mother. She's got that kind of butcher instinct, but also just she's got a bit of a wild, rebellious nature herself. But in that space, in that kind of liminal space while they're standing there, and even Lottie gets shot by the girl and she goes, wow, she's so powerful, because she realizes like this girl is like something to contend with. Let's like,
She's so
this is
weird.
something the wilderness would want. Yeah.
She like cocks her head. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
so
but it's true. And I also want to point out like Callie's eyes, you know, Shauna has really striking eyes, and we see that like she's got very dark eyes and they're very intense, when she's kind of in her moods. She can do a lot with those dark eyes. But Callie has these bright blue piercing eyes. And what I was thinking in this episode, like several times, what it reminded me of is the evil eye. And I talked about this in another video that I did about House of the Dragon with Aemon Targaryen, because he's got the one, that piercing blue eye. He's got the evil eye. I think Callie has the evil eye too, because she's so powerful. And if her gaze lands on you, like you better watch out. That girl's a little buck wild and dangerous. And so I really think that like they're kind of using that, because it is interesting that they cast someone with blue eyes. Yeah, Jeff has blue eyes, but genetically speaking, brown eyes are dominant. So it's interesting that they cast a blue-eyed girl to play Shauna's daughter, especially with such piercing dark eyes that Shauna has. So, anyways,
yeah.
I don't know
Well,
if you guys agree.
I agree. I agree 100%. I think it is a good I think that again, this whole show is about the DNA representation and what our DNA carries. And also it left the wilderness with Shauna and it was born into Callie. That makes so much sense to me. Like that she had that fire and that came out. And then also maybe that she's a lot like Jackie. And we've discussed this, and Faye and I were talking about this the other day. Like, you know, with her eating Jackie, maybe that's where a lot of that embody comes, because you are what you eat. And I think that whole situation also played in with Javi this episode, because after eating Javi, the girls Tell me a story. Like they were very childlike in nature. They wanted to hear stories. They wanted to bow and curtsy while there was like little kind of playgirl music box music in the background, and they're like, grab your blankies when we leave the cabin. I know that's a wilderness tactic, but it's just a lot of it. If we go back and rewatch, you can see where after they eat Javi's body, they become more childish. um so I think that with, anyway, back to Callie. Callie and her Callie does have a major part to play in the future, and I feel maybe even Walter and Jeff and them being there, they're also in now in the hunt or the death, whatever it is, they're in it as well. And we're gonna have the 2.0 version of the girls coming out. I just want to see who's the new king and queen, or king and queen, if it's gonna be the queen, if it's gonna be a king. It's gonna be interesting to see. I think that Callie will be the the one projected as it, but I feel like maybe Lisa will come in again, or Lisa just disappear. Where did she go?
Mhm.
Was she Nat's mind?
Well, and also like with Lisa too, I'm glad like we had this moment before all of that started where Nat goes and she tells Lisa like you need to leave, some stuff's going to be happening tonight. And she thanks her for trying to teach her about forgiveness. And I thought that was really touching, obviously for like many reasons, but it shows like who Nat is, but it also that gave Lisa a hint. She was like, what is happening? But, Lisa goes out there and she takes Nat's gun with her. And I thought that was really interesting. And she's holding everybody up, but she doesn't end up pulling the trigger. She, kind of maintains this sort of like, I feel like Lisa has a kind of she's like a saint. Like she's got this saintly position and she's trying to teach Nat about forgiveness and all of this, and that's very like sort of Jesus symbolism. But then going back to Javi also has a lot of Jesus symbolism. And I feel like with what you were just saying, where they kind of regain this childlike, innocence after eating him, I feel like because Javi has a lot of that Jesus Christ symbolism involved with him, that he like cleansed them, that he symbolically cleansed them when they ate him. And so it's kind of interesting to see that overlap, because I feel like Lisa shares a lot of those qualities that Javi had, and they
Yeah,
both kind of share that forgiveness, that kind of Jesus Christ sort of symbolism. And so yeah, I'm glad that she didn't end up spilling blood. Her legacy is like she taught them forgiveness. And I very much hope that she's going to come back in future seasons. But she did run away, and I think it's just because like she got the wilderness in her and it probably scared the shit out of her, you
yeah.
know?
But she has been like a voice of reason for
Hmm.
sure, to not just her, to a couple of characters throughout the season.
Hmm.
But I did like, you're right about the Nat and the gun. I actually didn't think that like she was the one holding the gun against Nat. Um, and there is, we'll see, the Jesus symbolism, or the twice reborn, is definitely in a lot of them. I really liked how Javi did, though, embody a lot of that with being born again. And I don't know, I still like the idea of him not being buried right, but we'll see where it goes with that. You tell me.
Well, I think like Javi had as much ritual with his death that could be, like it was fairly ritualistic, and the whole thing with Shauna and the other girls, and like the kind of disrobing him and preparing his body and all of that. And then just, yeah, it was, I don't know, it was about as
Yeah, oh, she was
ritualistic.
like a Mary Magdalene in a sense.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, well, do you mean Shauna?
Yeah.
Well, I always see her more like Mother Mary personally, because she's got a lot of that symbolism too.
Uh,
But
yeah.
well, I guess she could maybe embody both, like kind of the whore and the
Triple
mother,
goddess.
which is, yeah, that's some Jungian stuff for you. um,
She embodies the hair, that's for sure, in the hunt. I
mhm.
feel like her energy just gave her way of like all her energy magic, not knowing of being nervous made her the prey, even though we knew she was the prey to begin with. But
well, that's a good question too of like what was really happening because okay, so right before the hunt starts, Ty says to Lottie, she says, Lottie, shouldn't we talk about this? Like, you can talk to us, you can trust us, right, Van? And Van doesn't answer. She doesn't answer Ty because I think that hold on, let me pull up this shot. Where is it? Because I think that like she's not no, you shouldn't trust Van. Van has she has ulterior motives and she's actually in Lottie's boat where she's kind of advocating for Lottie's choices and she's also saying, we protect ourselves. And they have that conversation of well, anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, but yeah, they when they're in the woods, Ty pretty much comes to the realization that like Van's not on this, they're not on the same, they're not playing the same game. Van's got her own thing going on. And I think Ty realizes that right in that moment. So when the hunt starts and they start chasing Shauna, Lottie's all in, Lottie believes that they're doing the hunt. But I think, and then the other girls are kind of following her. And so the question becomes a little bit unclear of, are they all following Shauna? Like, is this inciting their hunting instincts, their predator instincts, and she's the prey? Are they all kind of like, whoop, whoop, getting all hyped up? Or is it just Lottie and they're chasing Lottie to like kind of control the situation? And it becomes a little bit unclear, which I like because, there's this idea that, if you run, like I live here where there's a ton of bears. I live in Alaska. There's tons of bears. If you see a bear, the last thing you're supposed to do is run because they will chase you. It kicks in their prey drive. And so, and there's nothing you can do. That's just animalistic. And so this idea that the girls who are very animalistic, once they get into that zone, are they following Lottie or are they all hunting Shauna for real? Like, did the game change? And even Nat seems a little bit questionable because, even though Nat and Shauna were in the kitchen together and, kind of rigging the knives and all of that, it just still seems a little bit like Nat was kind of in it. In my opinion, she had that look in her eye. So I don't know. I don't know what you guys think.
You could see their whole demeanor changing and their faces change, especially Van, like, because when it's happening or the wilderness is there, she gets really fiery. And I think that they get very, like you said, savage and primal and animalistic or elemental in a sense too. And I love the shrieking, the calls, very like we've talked about the Wendigo vibes and Wendigo stuff before. There's a lot of that happening, like you said, straight down to business, and that would be straight down to business. They would, when they're there and the doors open, they get down to business with the hunt, and that was embodied here. Right away, Shauna's like, okay, time out, and they're like, there's no it. It was just us. We are the it. Charlotte, what's the difference? So you can submit or you can run, and this really became like, I think they got lost in the moment too. I wanted to ask everybody, or you, Faye, what are those? So we have an owl, we have a fox, maybe, or is that like the Wendigo face? What are these animals?
Think, like, interestingly, Nat is wearing the straw man mask, and that's another like sacrificial symbolism there.
I thought that was a fox. I was like, is that a fox?
Oh,
a straw, but I like to see the straw man. That makes way more sense now. But I thought it was more of a fox. What are these? Do anybody in the chat know what are these animals? Like a barn owl?
I think that Lottie's an owl. I couldn't really tell what Misty's was, and then the other women, I think they're just trees, which I think is very fitting for Ty, and then Van being her sort of, I guess, tied to her, her vanguard.
I guess it's all, no matter what animal or tree or creature they are, same as you.
Yeah. It was interesting to see Lottie as the owl and not Misty, because I feel like Misty has a lot of those owl like characteristics, but and So I don't know if her mask, does anyone know what Misty's mask is? I couldn't really, but,
I I
oh, God.
definitely think that they switch it, which is again that trickster energy, Hermes and the vibe, and just understanding that we're all the same. And that and how Antler Queen, that spirit goes between them. The Queen's vibe gets shuffled around, which is kind of the Wendigo story as well as and other things that we've talked about before on the show and other episodes. But it's really coming alive here, whatever it is, and taking over. I think we see Tree Tie coming out way more. I love Van because Van is now like in belief again, especially as an adult. We've seen her not be in belief, and now she's like ready. And especially at the end when Lottie goes to her and says, "Oh, the wilderness is pleased." Van has a face of hope. She has like a dream. She's like, oh, maybe I'll be healed kind of sense going on with her. So, and then I think the hardest part for this was like not have these eerie feelings. I think she knew, but Misty was kind of just rolling with it. I think Misty's still fighting with her character or fighting with embracing the darkness because she's still trying to control the narrative story time, like we said, until she ends up killing that. So
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot going on in this scene. Um,
I like
Going back to also to Ty. So what I was kind of the tangent I was getting towards was that there's that moment like with Van and Ty because Van, she's a little bit on the fence. And I love that they're kind of playing with this idea with her character because they do it in her younger years also. And after she drew the Jack of Hearts in the last episode, I think that they're going to really like put her character into sort of that Jack vibe, which is sort of like playful, but also kind of scary because it's unpredictable. And so, but you're
she
not a novice, you're somewhat.
Yeah, she grabs clubs too at this one, 4 clubs. So just
Yeah,
saying, yeah.
and I also Ty, she got the 8 of diamonds this time, which is what Misty had in the former. And actually Ty got 2 8 cards, which I thought was interesting because it's like the infinity and with her card
Yeah.
from the thing, which was maybe what was it, the 6 of diamonds or 6 of clubs, maybe, I don't know. Anyways, her card was all about like life and death and work and spirituality, balancing all of those things. And so I thought it was interesting that she got 2 8 cards. And I don't know if these cards in this section, if they were as deliberately chosen as they were in the younger years. That's something I'll have to do a little research. And if they are that deliberate, then I will, follow up and do another video on that.
Yeah, I think so because I felt like there was a rebirth. Like they get 3 cards. They were going through these flashings and they had their older, younger selves. I put the first pull. I have the first pull in the notes, but I didn't take count of the other ones because I was just in a
Yeah.
hurry.
The only ones that, and I think Missy
But
got
there
like
were some repeats, yeah.
Ace of clubs, I want to say. I don't know. We'll go back through and take a look. I don't know if they were as significant, but I think the ones that stood out to me were Ty's, getting 2 8s, which I just thought was really interesting for her, like sort of
Yeah.
infinite and like the cycle she's on, and then like the man with no eyes and just sort of her whole energy.
But
Um,
we didn't get 96 tie in the whole thing. So I think I said that in the beginning, but in that whole thing we got all of their flashbacks to 96 time and the present timeline, but we didn't get the 96 tie. So I don't know if that has to say something. I really do think.
so Yasi, I saw you make this comment. I want to say maybe in Kelly's chat, and I'm interested to know. So if you want to put it in here or if you just want to send me a message or something, either way, I would love to know more about this.
Yeah, there's a lot of Norse mythology too here, like with the tree and all that, but I don't really know it as well either. So I think that's why we haven't talked about it as much because I'm
Yeah.
not as like I have to do research on that.
There's a lot of there's various mythologies, and I'm starting to wonder if maybe they might be assigning like certain mythologies either to the season because we saw a ton of Greek mythology in season 2, or if maybe each person sort of embodies a different like cultural mythology related to like cannibalism and survival and that kind of thing. I could be wrong, but there's still things for them to elaborate on. I love the Greek mythology that was really, heavily given to us this season. And we'll see if they continue doing that into future seasons, or if it was just kind of like a theme for season 2. Okay. So, can we
Yeah,
get LML to guest talk about Norse mythology?
I mean, we can
Oh,
ask him.
I don't know. Maybe we'll see what we can work out.
Yeah, I know he's not really going into a lot of others that much, but
He's come
he's
on
been,
here before.
yeah, he has, but he's been I followed him since like 12 followers, so I've known
That's
him
kind
and
of
loved
probably
him.
like how I want to say that's like
Yeah.
how Mandy and I like met each other, was in LML's chat, like probably 6 years ago, 10 years ago. Who
No,
freaking
like
knows?
8 years
Yeah,
ago, but
I was pregnant
20
when
it
I
was
remember watching his
2015.
streams while I was pregnant. So it's been at least like 6 years.
It's been like 2015.
Yeah. So, but
So
yeah, that'd be cool. I'd love to have him come on and chat
he's
mythology with us again sometime. Hey,
he's one of my
Luna, welcome
favorite.
to the chat. Thanks for being here. Nice to see you. So let's see. Yeah, the best way you can put it is how myths have roots into our unconscious. Exactly. It's like
Yeah,
a collective unconscious with, collective memories, which are mythology.
that have the same archetypes, which is Carl Jung,
Mhm.
which has trickster energy, which and native in Norse mythology. Yeah, we do know a lot about too. I just don't. I can't remember names a lot of times, or I feel like I can't pronounce a lot of it right. I have to go back. Plus, I like, I get down on the wilderness. So, especially the green monsters, the green
We
monster of the
worship the
wilderness.
wilderness
So you're gonna have to give me some
in our
time
own ways.
sometimes. I have my rituals daily,
Yeah. So,
timely.
but with the whole thing, I do want to say, like, okay, so Ty, they have this scene with Ty and Van where, like, basically the thing with Van is Van's like, yo, you cannot call Lottie crazy. Like, that is not right for you guys to be treating her like she is a crazy person, because she's like this because of us, but also, like, she if Lottie is crazy, then Ty is crazy. Okay. So Ty, until you're ready to admit that you're just as crazy as Lottie is, then, like, we don't need to be having this conversation, and we protect each other. Just like I'm protecting you right now, Ty. You came to me for protection, for help, and all of that. So how dare you say this about Lottie? And I really appreciate that about Van this episode. Like, I feel like she was really looking out for Lottie and for that. And I appreciate her saying that to Ty too, because I don't think that struck home for Ty until then. But by the end of the episode, it's Ty who's like, we're gonna, you're gonna go back to the psychiatric ward and we'll come and check on you, which I kind of felt was like a very empty promise personally. What are your thoughts, Mandy?
Yeah, Ty just I love Van in this episode. I love that she's like, we're gonna take care of it us. We need to do it. And I think that she's submitting, like Lottie submitted. Lottie submitted like the bear she was, and like we've seen the bear submitting all of the seasons, and it is so character on point for her. Whereas Van is like really believing and putting her foot down, like she's kind of submitting, but also fighting in a sense where she's like being the example, leading and saying this is the way. I also like that she, is all in. She wants to protect. She wants to follow suit on their pact, follow suit on their protection that they agreed to, and reminding Ty because Thaisa always is quick to say, well, who would it isn't me that did that when it was literally her who hired Jessica, or like to be bad. I think Van has always been a leader on that good side. She's kind of equivalent to Misty for Nat, but now we see that happens. Um, I really want to the idea of Van to like Tree Tie, the other Tie, better than she likes real Tie. I really want that to happen, and I think this kind of leads to that happening maybe in 96 timeline for next season.
Yeah, That's really interesting. I like that, and it seems more and more, especially with this kind of scene, is it seems like it's really personal for Van to see Ty acting this way. And maybe Ty is like unconsciously like kind of doing things that are reminiscent of like their breakup or something like that. Was kind of the vibe I was getting, where like Van just feels like she's seen this side of Ty before, where she's just ready to kind of betray or like leave her friends in the dust. And like she's like, we promised to look after each other. And
Yeah.
so I just feel like Van's whole motivation was really personally fueled. And also she had no problem being like, um, like when Ty said, you can trust us, right, Van? And Van doesn't reply because she's trying to tell Lottie, she's like, no, don't trust us. I don't trust Ty. So I feel like there's like a reason why she doesn't trust Ty. It probably goes back to whatever happened in their relationship. And that probably has to do with like these kind of her disassociation, or whatever it
Yeah.
is, her alter self, and I like what you're saying. Like maybe she and Van had more of that relationship with just one aspect of herself and didn't see the other side. And so I feel like Van sort of is at war with the two
Yeah.
sides of Ty,
Yeah, I
you
so
know?
Dulcinea says, I believe the cases and what broke them up too, that Fuig tie or Fug, how do you say it? Fuig, Fuego, Fuig tie has an affinity to Lottie and Van is all in. And so let's talk about Van being all in, because it's not just she's all in. Van is about to die. Van knows she's about to die, and she believes in this method. And I think she's trying to cheat death in a sense too. She's not admitting to it. She might seem like she's hero here, but in some kind of way, she's pulling it like a gnat in the future, or 96 gnat. Like she's gonna find some other way. Hopefully, somebody else will die so that she's not gonna be next on the death line, because she only has like a month or so, or whatever, how much they say, which is why she's so hopeful at the end of the story. So as much as I see that there is like her being a hero, but she's also, taking this step to protect herself in the same way. um I just, I think that that's important, because she does have this I'm going to give it all, F it kind of attitude. Like, this is my only hope, because before this, she was dead. She wasn't feeling that fire. And now
Mhm.
all of this is being brought alive, and she's feeling some fire again. Um,
Yeah, even Lottie pointed out, she said, I think it was in the last episode, she's like, Van, you used to have so much life inside of you, and now, what happened. And then in this episode, she says, I saw it in your eyes. I could see the wilderness in your eyes. So like this is like a life source for Van. She comes alive, and we are, and again, going back to like the Jack of Hearts and her kind of having that sort of playful side of herself, like this is it in action in her older years. But it's also in the form of her looking out for herself, like you were saying, where she's putting herself first, and it's not just about Ty and what Ty needs and what's going to be best for Ty, because she can see right here that Ty is not gonna, she might not always do the same for her. She might not always look out for what's best for her. Like when she told her she has cancer, she's like, what are you gonna do, send me flowers from your office and send me a message on Facebook? Like I don't think she has a lot of faith in Ty returning the favor, kind of thing. So yeah, with her having limited time, her having cancer and being sick, then it kind of makes sense that she should look out for herself. And um if this is a way, then why not try?
well, I think also it's reflected in the story time moment where she says, once upon a time, there was a place called the wilderness, and it was beautiful, full of life, but yet it was lonely and violent, and then misunderstood. One day it built a house and it waited. Summers came, winters came, and then she's interrupted. She didn't get to finish. But that, I mean, that had the whole like Wendigo vibes, because they talk about the Wendigo being able to open doors. It builds a house, a cabin. I've read some stories like that. You have to trap it in a box in your heart, to kill it. And then also they're talking about skinwalkers in the chat too. So I think that there's a lot of that involved in this storyline, But again, they're giving us trickster vibes where it could be Nord Norse, it could be Greek, it could be Roman, it could be native, it can be anything. It's those overall tones and narratives and lines that we're seeing over and over again, which is what is so brilliant about this writing and how they're connecting it. But I think that if you talk about that, it waited and waited, and now she waited and waited. It was gone. It waited and waited with Lottie too, and it waited and waited to reappear, and now it's reappearing in her and Lottie, and she believes again, and Lottie's broke to fire. And I do think that she has a lot more depth to it than what is just projected.
I think that that's very fitting for this comment right here. Luna asks, what kind of story do you think younger Van was going to tell in the cabin before the fire? And they were cut off and she didn't get to finish her story, but now we're picking it back up. They waited and waited. They waited to finish the story. And so I think that, just like you were saying, she and Lottie in particular, they've waited and waited, and now we're going to finish the story. We're going to get the rest of the story. So maybe that was the intention the whole time. I don't think the story is finished, and I think that's something, maybe a cliffhanger for us to be left upon.
I don't think it will ever be finished. I think it's just going to keep going generational, which is what we're getting with Callie and all these ideas we talked earlier. But it's the circle in nature. That's what it is. So it's going to be really fun, going down this. Is it a spiral or is it a circle? We'll find out.
Yeah. Well,
both, right?
Right. And we're seeing that with Callie now and with Lisa, because I feel like they are our next generation, and we don't know, like, is that going to take Sammy also? And, I have to shout out like a prediction I made like a month ago or something, where it was, are Callie, Lisa, and Sammy, are they related to like Lilith and Samael, which are,
more symbolism.
Demonic king and queen, essentially, the dark aspects of Adam and Eve. And I think that, there is some of this commentary going on, especially with Shauna's boyfriend being named Adam. So I think that, maybe, but I do think, we're seeing this being on a cyclical nature, a generational cycle, and now they're getting sucked in. And it'll be interesting because Lottie, we've talked about before how Shauna is the only one who has, potentially she may be the only one that has a biological child. We think that Simone gave birth to Sammy. We're not certain, but seems more likely. She has more of that maternal instinct than Ty. Ty's always daddy Ty, And so, but Lisa was like a daughter to Lottie, but also almost a little bit like that with Nat as well. Even though they had a short relationship, they had a really strong bond. And then they had that experience in, with Lisa's family, with her mother. And so, I don't know. There's just something to be said. And also, I have to question Walter, because, we've heard the story. Walter shared the story that his grandmother went to prison for 30 years for, what was it, murdering his grandfather or something like that. Did she have the I don't know. Did she have grandma? Yeah. Did you have the wilderness? She sounds like a really cool
lady. She is.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Walter. But I love that. I think it's gonna. I think 100% we're gonna see that DNA passing down through the spirit, through the skinwalker. I like how the we're talking about the skinwalker in the chat. I think that it's gonna be more of a like that is another kind of trickster energy that we're getting, and whatever it is going through them and changing and comes and appears as different demons, whether it's the three-eyed, the man with no eyes to Ty, or Lisa maybe or maybe Walter is a version of it, or he is coming into it. We'll see.
How are they connected? Are the wilderness spirits connected? Is the man with no eyes connected to it? Obviously that's a generational cycle as well, because it seems like Ty inherited that from her grandmother. So there's a big question of like, what's the source of all of this? Is it all interconnected, or is it separate sort of curses that are like haunting these women individually? Um,
Look at Kelly Jean's comment. You're gonna love that one. The
let's
most
see.
recent one.
Sorry, I'm a little bit
Kelly
behind.
Jean says, Have said, she told me, didn't he? So it's a female.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they always
Mm-hmm.
say the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit embodies a female energy. So, well, not all of they, but a lot of they now.
Yeah.
New age they.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a lot of
So let's talk about Ty, since we're kind of with Van. I
yeah,
mean, we've
let's
been
talk
talking
about Ty.
about
Can I
her.
just
Let's
point
just
out
like,
one? I wanted to point out, hold on. I love this shot of Ty right here. Hold on, let me pull it up.
yeah, it is them all. I think like it isn't all of us. There is no it, right? It's us.
Mhm.
That's all of this is in all of us, and I think that's what it is. They're showing you different ways it's evolved, or it shows the connections with all of the mythology, whatever ancestry you have. There's common tones, and it is within all of us, a collective unconsciousness that we
Mhm.
have, and through our DNA, through this very young, inspired, very psychologically psychological psychopomps is what it should be, where we can travel these realms, and we can travel the realms of our mind, travel the realms of our unconsciousness collectively. And there's so much of the brain that we as humans have not even opened up. And it's like we keep ourselves in the little black box, like the box we see, like the box of the Wendigo heart, the box that we see Ty painting, the golden box. There's so much to it, and it's just brilliant. It is also scary. So anyway, let's go on to Ty. I'm going on a rampant. You're on mute, Faye.
What's interesting about that too is that like a lot of these instincts, they are coming out in instinctually, like with Travis biting Javi's heart, eating a piece of Javi's raw heart. These instinctual things that are human nature, human survival instincts that come out as like a coping mechanism, but also just as like your will to survive, is something very interesting um to observe and to kind of comment on. And then there's different cultures that people come from, and so you're pulling from these instincts, these ancestral instincts from especially people who live in America and live in Canada. We are much fresher on these lands than our European ancestors or wherever our ancestors come from. So it's interesting to like contemplate where our true like ancestral knowledge really stems from. And like if you're living in a completely different environment, like are your instincts pulling from like ancient places, or are you more pulling from like things that are in the physical place that you're at? I don't know if this is like a weird, if I'm putting this across understandably, but it's just kind of interesting to contemplate like where these instincts come from for them, these primal instincts, where they're pulling them from. And it's just fun to play with the idea.
Yeah, they can be definitely learned. I mean, are we products of our environment? Which this is literally, they're saying that too, that they've become products of their environment through the future and through what they've done. I think Ty is one of them, because Ty always had these theories that she's going to go on, she's going to go to college, work for a lawyer, become a political advisor, and look at what she's done, product of her environment. But the inner primal part of Ty is completely trying to destroy that part of her. So it is like a dualism, a battle, the dualism circle of time, circle of chaos, whatever you want to feel it. But it is definitely that whole realm of thought processing. Um, and I love it. I love Ty. I think that she's really, or Tree Ty is coming out a lot right now. I think that she's actually coming out more than other Ty, and regular Ty is very hesitant. She's very not confident in half of what they're doing, especially with Van, and she's scared, as she should be. I would be too.
I agree. Yeah. I think we're seeing more of her alter because we talked about this last week where, um, like Ty was so like after they ate Jackie, she woke up the next morning, she was just completely like appalled with herself. She couldn't believe it. She didn't even have any memory of it. So we realize now, like, and then she ended up vomiting. So it's like we know that one aspect of Ty, her, Ty number one or what have you, she is not down with cannibalism. She's not like, she's not going to go down that road. She has a bit more of, I guess, I don't know, standards for whatever reason. I mean, when you're surviving, kind of those things should, it's survival first. But she was not okay with that. So the idea that it's her that was participating in the hunt for Javi and all of that, no, I really don't think so. I don't think, Ty number one would not be okay with hunting a child, cutting him up and eating him. I think this is her alter state, and that's where she kind of goes. And it's also like a form of mental protection too, where you're sort of shielding yourself from like these real horrors that are happening, because we have this one side of her that's like unwilling to accept the horrors, but her alter self is completely like, she's there, she's connected to the wilderness, she's connected to the man with no eyes, she knows where the symbols are and all of this kind of stuff. So it's very interesting, her two frames of mind. But I think we are seeing more of like her alter, and especially this moment here. Obviously, this is the scene where Travis is taking a bite of Javi's heart, and I for some reason I just really loved these shots of Ty. She would just looked
Yeah.
so intense. She just looked so serious, and she looks, I really believe she's in her alter state, obviously. Um but she's just got this intensity about her, and she's just watching, just watching what's happening. And excellent,
Encouraging
excellent job.
too.
What's
It's like
that?
it's like an encouraging face.
Yeah.
Like it's like a, okay, you're doing it. Like, go on. Yes.
Just like yeah, just like watching, very like owl, like just observing. Okay. All right. She does get a little bit of a face like when he takes the bite of the heart, but besides that, like she digs right in, she grabs a piece of Javi, throws it in the pan, once the okay comes along. So it is interesting. Yeah, to analyze her. I just loved these shots. I thought they were so good. But, it's going back to like her and Van, if Lottie is crazy, then Ty is crazy. You can't say one is and one's not, because Ty has done just as many crazy things. And all the things that Lottie sort of calls them out for when they're out there, she's like, you can't say that the wilderness wasn't in you when, when Shauna killed Adam, when Nat put the gun in her mouth, when, Misty has actually killed people. And, with Ty, like, you just can't say that one is and one's not. Ty's killed her dog. She got Simone in a car accident. She's completely lost her mind. She's
Exactly.
completely, I was thinking about this. Somebody posted a just like a gif or a reel or something of Ty at the end on episode 10 of season 1 versus her in this finale. She's a completely different person, because at the
Hmm.
very end was when she won the her political thing, whatever position she holds that she's completely neglected at this point. But she's wearing the red dress, she's in that victory mode, and here she's completely like, we've there's no memory of any of that. Like, her whole political career is just like out the window right now. And so all of it's just really interesting to contemplate, because if Ty was behaving this way and she wasn't under the protection of her friends, as Van said, the protection of her friends, we protect each other, then they would be looking at Ty like she was absolutely insane, and she would be Lottie. They would be locking her up in the mental hospital. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's really messed up of Ty to like, sort of subjectively look at Lottie and label her.
Yeah, and she does this. This is part of her character the entire time, is that she is like a lot like Shauna. They're kind of the most lost, I think, in perspective. And she projects a lot, or she would, like she did with Jessica, like she did with this, and she's done it a lot of times. If you go back and watch from the beginning, you see it a lot more now, knowing that she has all these secrets, because before you didn't know that, and she was projecting a lot of times to make it, oh well, it's not about me. Well, what does that have to do with me? Or making it like I would never, but she's the one behind it, or at least the tree tie is. Um, I wanted to point out, a couple of people are talking in the chat about like Jackie's ears. So we talked about that when that did it, but it was symbolization of like her letting go of Jackie talking about her, letting go of that Jackie talking in her ear. It was symbolizing like her taking control. That they have like a really complicated relationship, so it's like a physical manifestation of that, but it's also her. I mean, what else do we talk about that? I'm sorry, I got off. And then we
Yeah.
see the switching.
Sorry, I was
I just
sorry, I
want to
was looking
answer
at the
that
chat as well.
question.
Thanks, Yasi.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just interesting. Like Ty, I don't know. She's just kind of like, I don't know. She's unwilling to really, it's like she's willing to subjectively look at everybody else except for herself. And we kind of talked about this last week, where she was like kind of lashing out at the others, where she was like, well, it's not like you have any money, Shauna, or whatever. You guys are poor. Kenny, your family's poor. But or whatever else she was saying, talking crap. I think she said something nasty to Misty,
Yeah.
or to Nat, or what have you. She's willing to be nasty to everyone else, but she's not willing to look at herself that subjectively, or hold herself accountable for the things she's done. Because even rather than holding herself accountable, she went and sought out Van, and she was like, help me, I need help. I'm in like, this rough place. But she's also getting that protection from Van. Van's the one that is loyal. Van says, we promised each other that we were going to look out for each other. And the only reason that Lottie is crazy and she's gone through all of this like psychological, because honestly, like whatever happened with Lottie, yeah, she might have had some things going on beforehand, schizophrenia or whatever, but like their experiences in the wilderness, she shouldn't have just been sent to the mental hospital and given electroshock therapy and tried to suppress that, because that's all that was suppression. And there's this idea too, especially with Walter labeling them as a coven, once they were separated, once they were rescued and separated from each other, and they didn't get to have that time together to protect each other. No one was there to protect Lottie after that. No one. And I think even Akilah, remember when Akilah was studying for the test, and she's like, Mari's like, well, when we get back, we're going to be out of school. And Akilah's like, well, I'm not going to be, so by the time they get rescued and they return, they're old enough. They're not going back to high school where they're like, sort of forced to be together. They're all going about their individual lives independently. And so they're not that powerful coven as they were together. And I think Van is really the only one who's recognizing that, where she's like, we are more powerful together, and that's why we need to protect each other. Because when we are on our own, look at how chaotic we are. Look at all of us. We are a hot mess. Look at Shauna, look at Ty, look at Misty, look at Nat, look at all of us. And even Van, she's got cancer. Like her form of it manifesting into something, Van's didn't come in a form of like self-destruction the way that the other women did. Hers came as a health crisis. Hers came as she has cancer now. And so that all comes into play with their final ritual, because now, and even Lottie kind of indicated that, she kind of hinted that when that they gave the wilderness what it wants. And so now they're going to be rewarded. And so are we going to see that Van's cancer might be cured or may subside or something like that because of this sacrifice to the wilderness? And I think maybe some people, I think I saw a couple comments here in the chat where maybe that's not like the most PC commentary, I guess you might say, or whatever outlook on that. But honestly, I think it's actually quite beautiful, because, like,
wait, what?
Yeah, I just think there's like,
what comment are you talking about being PC?
I can't find it now. I can't find crap for comments. I just saw one out of the
Okay.
corner of my eye where it was like they were like, "Well, are they trying to make commentary saying that you can cure cancer by
No, yeah, but we've talked about this.
sacrificing someone?" You know.
No, but we've talked about this many times about what you believe in your DNA and if you have the power to heal. And we've talked about this
Mhm,
like every episode, basically. I've talked about it a lot, I know. But I do
mhm,
think that she's going to be able to heal. And when we talk about Lottie as well, when she said, oh, well, all these things manifest in us different ways, and they can mental illnesses or all these kinds of illnesses. And what she talks about several times how they can manifest. And now we see the physical projection of that through the show, through the storyline, through this narrative with Van. And I do think that, you know, what you believe, if you she believes that she's being healed, it's going to come into play, whether we think it's really the it factor, her DNA, or whatever. But I've done it myself. Like I practice it and I think it works too. So that's just my personal story. Like I've practiced healing a cancer and I feel like it actually is working. And it's shrinking, so it's belief, and you have to believe that you can get over something, and that's with anything you do. Anything, if you don't, it's like whatever energy you put out there, like Shauna put out the energy that she was nervous gonna be the prey, so she's not the alpha female anymore, so she's gonna become the prey, which she did. And it's like, you know, the it factor, like he says in the chat, the it factor, there's a mind body connection 100%.
yeah.
And I think that Van, though, you know, I've talked about the wolf spite and lupus and things like that, the systematic disorders. And Lottie does talk about that in a couple episodes before, too. It's going to be fun to play Van's role. And I did love that her belief really started showing prevailing in this episode. But back to Ty really quick, because like Ty was, like you said, she's just denying all of this stuff forever. She's quick to say, I don't want to do it. But like as soon as she says she doesn't want to do anything, I feel like Tree Tie just takes over and
Mhm.
makes her do it.
Well,
So
tree tie or her altered, like she is willing to do the hard things, the survival things that like the other tie is not willing. Like the
like the refusing of the draw,
mhm.
I feel like she took over right away. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw the changing. You can see her change in the face. I think she's
Mhm.
the actresses are trying to show that more. But like what happens if you refuse to draw a tie? You know what happens, and then you can see instantly
Mhm.
that she kind of like has this more confidence in her,
Mhm.
which is scary because I feel like we could all relate this in a sense to that deeper it factor in ourselves with, you know, our deep unconsciousness. It's
Yeah.
that deep with her.
Well, and also the like you were saying with like the power of self-healing, mind-body connection and all of that, like there is this idea too that any illnesses, like any illnesses that plague the human body would have a cure in mother nature. Like mother nature has the cure for everything. It's just a matter of finding it. And so this is kind of like an interesting commentary as that on that as well. Like the wilderness may hold the cure, right? And
Yeah.
you just have to find the key to that. And so there's kind of an interesting like idea to play with there. But also the idea of like when you're sick and you're dying, and I'll speak from personal experience, like when my dad was sick and dying and he was in hospice and all he wanted to do was leave. He's like, I just want to go to the woods, I just want to go. And they were so damn strict, they wouldn't let him leave with medication or anything like that. And so we never had enough time to get to the wilderness without him running out of that window of like his pain medication, right? So that for me was like something really tragic to have to carry, was like all he wanted was to be in the wilderness, and like they held him prisoner, you know? And so like his illness held him prisoner, or like society held him prisoner, when all he wanted was, he was just like, I mean, honestly, my dad was like, let me just go die in the woods kind of thing. And I think that's human instinct. I think humans in general have that urge. It's almost like my husband's been watching this show about monkeys on Netflix. He's really into it. But one of the things that we learned from them is that when they are dying, they go alone. They don't have anybody else around them, and they go to die alone because it's sort of just like the other kind of thing, that you're
Mm-hmm.
separated from your society, right? So it's like a private thing. And us being so closely related to primates, it's like, I think that's our human instinct, is to go to nature because nature takes us back, you know?
I mean, we can talk about how people want to go into the ocean or into the woods a lot to commit suicide as well. I mean, that's a
Hmm.
big thing, or taking our death. But I do want to mention on your, so part of what I think this whole theory of Yellowjackets is them coming into Renaissance eras. We're getting a lot of Renaissance kind of connections and
For
things.
on this note.
And then we're talking about death a lot. And there is this overtone of like, so when science came into part, or when groups of civilization started to live more together, and come back, there was all this overtone of just following each other more, believing that medicine was a thing. And we talk about ancient alchemy before with the hermetic wisdom, and there are things in nature that can help heal you. You just need to figure out the alchemic, formulas. But it's really interesting to think how all that plays in the part of this and what they're trying to do, whereas the return to nature is kind of bringing them back as the healing moment that we've
Mhm.
talked about and mentioned before. But yeah, let's get into, I won't go too deep into that thought, but I just wanted to point it out that it's there, and that scientific healing processing and has been a lot, but now they're going back to psychological healing processings, or ancient wisdom of medicines. There's a new rise in like this new thinking, to be able to heal yourself through chakra attunements, which I love to do personally. But yeah, I think that it has to play a lot, and it will have to play a lot more. Obviously, we go to a healing retreat, so it's embracing that nature to comfort you or to heal you is what I think we're gonna get a lot more of. And this, so let's talk about that.
Well,
Let's
and
switch it up.
okay, so a few things on the chakra note, that's something, we're going to have that conversation. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but there's um because that's something that Mandy and I have talked about a lot throughout the season, is the chakras and their placements and each of the characters. Um whoops. But what I thought was really interesting here, and even on the note of like returning to nature, Nat's moment of death, yes, she's out in nature. They're out in the forest, but then she has this dream where she's back in the plane. But the plane would be heading towards the wilderness, right? So like her soul is just trapped in that limbo where she's trying to get back to the wilderness. Like that's
Psych
it's kind
Psychopomp soul.
it's just interesting the way that happened. And so and also I love here that her outfit, she's wearing the exact same outfit that she's wearing in her younger years when they name her queen, when they name her the queen of the group. So I thought that was really interesting. She's wearing the red shirt and the leather jacket, but also we should have known the red shirt. What is a red shirt? Red shirts that's what they put on those people that are going to die. That's like your extras that are going to just go and die. They're the red shirts, right?
You're gonna die.
Yep.
Aquarius, you're gonna die.
Yep. So I thought that was really interesting, that I caught that on the rewatch. I was like, "Oh, yeah, the outfit, and then, oh, well, the red shirt, we should have known." Um, but with the red also, that ties into the chakras. So, okay, so Mandy and I had this thought going back to the Bacchanal scene and where each of the girls are seated in their placement is like a chakra alignment, okay? Because we have Ty, Van, um,
I can
Shauna.
pull up. I'll pull up the chakra
Yeah,
notes.
it was Ty, Van, Shauna, Lottie, Travis, Misty, and Nat. Okay. And so Nat was aligned with like the root chakra. And so we're kind of seeing this where there's like the movement of the chakras. They're transitioning, they're ascending or descending or what have you. But Nat was already at like the base. She was already the root chakra. So
Yeah.
I feel like, what's her next evolvement, her next evolution is probably going to be death. But it's like, in that life, death, rebirth cycle. Okay. I know this is a little deep.
Yeah, well, so I'm working on the video for it though. But like, also and Lottie is more of like a green area too. So it's really interesting to get these chakras. When we have placed them, we kind of not only did where they're eating on Jackie's body, because we're seeing as Ty as like the third eye, Nat as like the neck, um, Travis as the sacral chakra in a sense with
The reproductive area, which was symbolic because of Jackie losing her virginity to him.
yeah. But we also saw this chakra again when they're bowing to Nat in when she's being queened, because Misty was down eating the calves. We don't know that, but Misty got way down in her bow stance down to Nat's calves. Travis grabs her heart, Van grabs her face, the neck. They're all also in touch with the chakras then, not even knowing it, or maybe they don't know it, but we noticed that they're always in the same places so far.
Yeah, it was yeah, I just loved that. I thought it was a great little nod, especially like with Misty going to her knee, which is the same with Jackie's body. She was at the oh, I can't remember which chakra point, but she was down there. But anyway, but it was perfect, like in alignment, because where she was seated at the table was at the legs, the knees, and she's always like she loves those meaty calves, so it was like perfect. And then she goes to one knee to honor Nat here. So yeah, all of the chakra alignments, if you guys start to pay attention to it, they all are very, and even with Lottie, because of all the turmoil she's gone through this season, her clothes have kind of evolved to show like what placement she's in,
You are
because
what
the
you eat.
color assigned to each chakra. Yeah. So I've seen like her, whatever she's wearing tends to define sort of the chakra placement that she's aligned with, or like portraying or projecting
Yeah.
in that time.
And they also have like chakras that are connected to different planets too, and we have kind of put them as a planet, like Sailor Moon style. No, but kind of joking, but not really. But we did put her Nat as Charon, or like Pluto-esque, or Pluto's not a
Mhm.
planet anymore, but Charon, the bringer between the underworld, and we gave her that kind of goddess symbolism, and it makes sense for her to, of course, be the bottom, the chakra, the door opening between the ground chakra, the
Mhm.
root. So, and
Which
I
is
don't think,
also a butthole joke, just so you guys
yeah,
know.
there's
But the butthole is very interwoven into
the
chakra
moose.
stuff, because it's important to poop, okay? Just so you know. Ask the Egyptians. They loved it.
Well, was the butthole the lake opening where we lost the moose and Javi dies? And I mean, there's something connected there. There's more than what we
Oh,
see.
that's excellent. I love it.
It is a lake hole.
Yeah.
All right, anyway.
Yep. So, anyways, obviously, besides all of the things.
Yeah, I don't want to go too deep into that because we're gonna get the videos coming soon. So,
But not, her whole death scene was really I mean, I'll be straight up. I was very emotional. I totally cried. Like I mean, I cry a lot about TV shows and stuff,
I
but
know.
Nat's death was very impactful. I wasn't really expecting it. It kind of caught me off guard. And the how tragic it was for Misty also, because Misty, again, like going that moment where younger Misty, where she goes to one knee to swear fealty essentially to Nat, and Nat kind of laughs, but Misty's face is very serious. She's not smiling. She is completely serious. I am swearing my allegiance to you. I give you my sword, my bow, my axe. Like, I am your woman. I will always look out for you. And we've seen her do that before she even went to one knee. I mean, that's what she did out at the lake. She was saving Nat's life. And Nat's just very like important to her. For whatever reason, she senses that already. So the moments of her death, I mean, That's got to be so painful and tragic to have to, you know, feel that turmoil. I killed my best friend. She says it to Walter. I killed my best friend. I mean, I really think Misty's going to be really messed up. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying, like how she's always in control of everything. You know,
The
and she
narrative,
is
yeah.
like, she's always like, you know, she's the team manager. She's always controlling things. If something gets out of hand or, you know, gets too chaotic, Misty's there to clean up the mess. You know, she's the one that came and took care of Adam's body and, you know, all of those things. And so this is a loss of control right here. And it's in the worst way because, you know, we've suspected things about Misty, like if she's a serial killer. Yes, she admitted to Walter that she was involved with Adam, but we don't know about like what other things she may have gotten into in her free time. But I think like this is really going to impact her because it's beyond her control. It was a situation she was trying to control. She was trying to protect Nat from Lisa. She wasn't going to let anyone hurt her queen, but then she's the one that hurt the queen. And so now it's just this terrible, uncontrolled situation that she's responsible for. And that's just not Misty's comfort zone. That is so far outside of Misty's comfort zone. So it's going to be weird to see like how she's going to tolerate all of this. And she has to be feeling so awful. Like I don't think she's ever felt she has a sense of remorse, but I don't think it's like a heavy sense of remorse. She's more of like what has to be done has to be done, and this didn't have to be done. So her like remorse is going to just completely like tear her
Yeah.
up, you
For
know.
her, the ends always justify the means.
Mhm.
And this had no justification
No.
other than that she messed up. I mean, I could justify it as, hey, it's similar to Yellowjackets, the actual animal, and how they kill their queen and they sting her to death until the new one, or they stab her to death, literally.
Mhm.
Um, but it is, I love that scene. It just is so symbolic of the Yellow Jacket killing their queen, and she didn't want to. I think that this is going to be Misty's awakening, and that's part of what happened because we saw her even with her dream. She finally was opening up, and Walter has been her protagonist. Like Walter's been opening her up. Walter's been making her see or calling her out on her mistakes to not be as good a citizen detective as she was supposed to, and he's there to help her. So now she has this step in the right direction towards her next pilgrimage, which we see symbolic of the house burning down, and all of them are going to be in season 3. Is what I'm suggesting. Is what my theory is that they're going to be on their pilgrimage now. But Misty, particularly the adult Misty, is time to wake up. And she's been one of the hardest to get to because she justifies with science, which I was talking about earlier. She justifies with knowledge, but she doesn't, justify the it factor as much as, hey, I can be a hero to this because I'm friends with Lottie. I can be a hero with her because I'm best friends with her. So in that storyline, she intertwines herself so much with these people that she relies on them. But the person that actually just brought her back into this circle, which was Nat, hey guys, we're gonna call Misty. No, we're not gonna call Misty. No, I think we should. Nat was the one who always entwined her back into the story, and now she has no reason. I think that this side of Misty, like I really want her to be the next queen. So let's see.
It should be interesting to see, you know, what's going to happen with her. I don't know if she's in a position to be the next queen right now, just because of this emotional thing she's about to go through. And I think that's part of her, like, her story arc, you know? This is something really impactful because Misty's just kind of been going along doing her thing all this time. You know, she hasn't really had any variables because she doesn't have a family. She doesn't have, you know, other than Walter kind of stepping into her path, she hasn't really had to worry about other people. So it's going to be really hard to see how this affects her.
But remember too that Misty saved Nat from helping Javi. Misty's the one who essentially made Nat the new queen, whether
Mhm.
she saw it or not in the past, but she was quick
Very
to
true.
jump allegiance too, I think,
Yeah,
between
that's
Lottie and
interesting.
Nat.
Yeah, Misty is a bit of like a queen maker in a sense because even with Lottie, like Misty was the only one that was taking care of Lottie. Like Mari went up there and then she's like, oh, the pee stinks. And so Misty sent her off, you know, and she's like, if you're not going to take this seriously. So like Misty, she's the only one that was really looking out for Lottie. She probably saved Lottie's life. Like Lottie probably would not have survived if she had just been, you know, left to die up there or left on her own and no one else was looking out for her. And I think like that kind of struck home for Misty too when Lottie goes and names Nat the new queen. And Misty kind of stands up and she's like, well, what, you know, it's kind of like, what about me?
Yeah.
But also there is like the terrifying idea of Misty being their leader, which would be pretty ruthless.
I guess it makes sense that she always wanted to be queen because she did. And she always wanted to get noticed. And then that whole scene where it's like Ty wanted it, Shauna wanted it. You can see all both of them and then Misty like kind of standing up like thinking it would be her because she's always been the person to help or get them out of the things. She's the closer. So maybe that's I would like to think maybe if she's not the next queen that she'll be the closing queen.
Yeah. Misty's the closer. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. It's good. I think that you're right. Like, I think Shauna, she sowed her own poison when she was like, let me shuffle those cards a little more. Like her fear, it's like when you are manifesting, when you're trying to manifest, you're not supposed to put like anxious energy out. You're just supposed to say, okay, like, you know, you have to just let it go into the wind because otherwise you'll attract anxious energy back to you, you know? And so I think like Shauna kind of did that herself when she shuffled those cards.
Also with the knives too, though. Like it wasn't just the cards, it was the knives, it was calling. She tried to control the narrative, storytelling, but she couldn't. And it was that energy she just, in so many different ways, it wasn't just the cards. And then I thought, like I said, I thought they were trying to cheat originally. So I was like, what are they doing? Like, you know you can't cheat death. You know you can't cheat it. Wasn't this what have you learned? Are you not paying attention to what we learned past episodes? Come on, ladies. But I think that was like the whole time, like, you know, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah. So I think we've seen here, like, there's the turning of the tides, and Shauna's going to take over the new queen position, which I think is like both a position of honor, but also like a feared position. And here's a good question actually is, okay, now we need to look at, okay, so if Nat is their leader, if she's the chosen one, they've chosen her to be the leader, going back to the cannibal council of episode 1, the pilot episode, and also considering the flashback that we got of Nat this season, is Nat the antler queen? Like, is she always the antler queen in their younger years? Was that Nat that's leading the cannibal council? Is that her that's dressed up? Guys, tell me in the chat, is it Nat? Do you think? Because we've all kind of like assumed maybe it's on a rotating cycle, or, you know, it's different girls at different times, but maybe Nat now is like exalted. Like, who knows if the card game is going to be relevant. We don't know if it's going to continue being a relevant part of like the hunts in the future, because obviously that's something that they're going to explore. But yeah, so is she somehow excluded from that because they've chosen her as the leader because she cheated death, or because, you know, something like that, the wilderness chose her, as Lottie says? I
wonder, I also thought, like, are we eating these characters because they cheated death? Because Javi cheated death in a sense, then so did she, but now we're gonna get Shauna because she's cheating death too? Like, are they all like, I thought about that whole second reborn, and maybe that's what's keeping them in the underworld or unable to be that psychopath or like leave, you know, actually their spirit's able to rest because they haven't been cheating death. So
yeah. You know what's interesting too is I had this thought of like with Shauna becoming, you know, her drawing the new queen card, becoming the new queen per se, you know, all of this stuff that like she's like inheriting from Nat as like her legacy, right? So but not only that, like she also got all that money from Nat too, which is no good to Nat at this point because she's dead. But like, they never talked about that this season, you know? Yeah, they figured out Jeff was the blackmailer, but Nat never followed up. It was never, you know, what about all my money?
Well, they
you
didn't
know?
really, or Kevin, like she didn't have a chance. And I think that we're forgetting that past couple episodes has been literally like one day in in their life, and it's
Yeah.
been like 4 episodes.
There was a lot
So
wrapped up, yeah, into like a really short period of time. But I think that, slight critique, like I feel like that the writing kind of left some loose ends in that regard, or kind of like
yeah.
things that could have been relevant from season one kind of dropped off for season two
Well,
that
I
could
think
have enriched the story a lot.
sorry. I think that also like they were talking about in the chat before, some the writers aren't all the same. Things have been changing. Some were unhappy. I also remember there was an interview somewhere, I think, that Juliet was not 100% pleased on what they did with her character. She was like, that's not, or she didn't seem pleased, I think, in the interview. I think she was being proper about it, but, and not very vocal about it. But I think that she was not, 100% happy with everything.
Mm-hmm.
There was like a rumor of her being unhappy. So if
I've heard that too, that
we
like
went to
she
yeah, we
was.
went from warrior to like healer, and then like she was like warrior to healer, and then I thought it was interesting to see her light the candles and all this stuff this season to embrace the heliotrope, to do that stuff. But again, I wasn't expecting her death. And
Mhm.
sorry, go ahead, Erin.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I was not expecting her death, and I've heard that as well, that like she was a little bit unhappy, or unhappy that her story was like intertwined with Travis's so heavily or something like that, which is surprising that Travis was not in the death scene on the plane. We had Javi, we had her younger self, and then we had Lottie. And so it's kind of interesting that like Travis wasn't there. I don't know. There's just a bit of, it's a little, I don't know, a little
I,
clunky. But
let's talk about the death scene though, because I don't think we actually talked about like who was there, why, because I think that that's really important. Because again, we see Lottie with the heart, and we know
Mhm,
that instead of Travis, but like Lottie and the bear symbolism with the heart is huge. And I love the fact that like just it was like us, just don't be afraid. And
mhm.
her younger self is there saying to herself, you know that you're supposed to be here. Like she
Yeah,
knew
we've
the whole
been here for
time.
years. Yeah.
She's been here for years because she is death embodied Sharon,
Mhm.
Hermes passage crossing. I really feel that way. Like she's always been the door to death in a sense.
It's
And
always,
she's been playing with it, and it's always been open for her, and it's been living inside of her as the queen.
mhm,
And now she's just letting it eat her.
mhm.
And it's hungry like we are, which was reminding me so much of like the Wendigo stories. Like it's hungry,
Yeah.
just let it eat. So
Mhm.
I love this part. I thought it was so I cried. I did. I watched it 5 times now, and like I cried every
Yeah, it
time.
just make you cry a lot. It's very emotional. I don't know. I feel like her arc still had potential, like she could have gone further. They could have grown her out of the whole Travis thing, especially because his death happened so early on this season. So I am a little bit disappointed. I mean, I'm entirely disappointed that she's dead. I think
Yeah.
like she was a great character. So I am really sad. And I think they could have explored, because okay, what Nat kind of, her story arc kind of reminds me of is Eowyn from Lord of the Rings, because, and I know that sounds a little crazy, but Eowyn was the warrior,
I
and
see it.
she wasn't like the other girls, but she wanted to go to war, she wanted to fight, and she's the one who kills the Witch King of Angmar. And so she, but she's like this incredible powerful warrior, but she transitions after the war and she becomes a healer. And her whole thing, because she was carrying all this anger inside of her from her childhood and her parents' death and how they died, and then she got to have the fight, and then she comes home and she heals and she becomes a healer and she heals others. And that's like such a beautiful arc
Mm.
that is underappreciated. And I felt like Nat was like on that same trajectory, but then it kind of just fell off, because she could have been a great healer, and that character is valuable, especially like with Lottie and all of her kind of turmoil that she's going through, and
Yeah.
also like her transition as a character, because we're seeing her move out of just a healer, like you were saying, or like into the wounded healer, or even something beyond that, depending on how um
Yeah, I think
detrimental everything is, I guess you might say. But yeah, so I feel like Nat could have picked up that position and then gone from like this death, the Sharon position to the healer position, which would be like ascending, to
Well,
like
but
her crown,
okay, but
right?
here's the thing: is like Sharon and Hermes, they were also that always. Like she was that always. It's just she was closer to death because she held it, whereas like Lottie was closer to the sun, and she knew that she had to go through that darkness, and she was there to help them go through their darkness, and for them to come back to the forest, for them to relate at the time when Lottie was not. So we saw her healing them in those ways and kind of leading them through the darkness a sense. But I think that's what part of why they wanted to give us her dying in juxtaposition with 96 of her becoming the leader, because now we get to see what happened during that whole time. But you just killed one of our favorite characters off, who was finally coming around, and we're finally getting that heart to heart with her and understanding of the true sense of her. um, I do want to point out though that they talked about how, or Andy again put the link from last year where Julia explains playing Nat because she was obsessed with some boy. And then Luna Cascade says it was interesting the needle injection implemented Nat's death, like the yellow. Yeah, so we were talking about that a little earlier, like how Missy came in with her stinger. Um, lots of just overtones of how Yellowjackets choose their new queen. They sting her to death. Uh,
So Eric asks, do we think Nat is dead or soap opera dead?
I
I
think she's not.
personally, I think
So
there's opportunity to bring her back. Like, I think they will probably for, like how we have seen so much. I mean, the dead are never gone in this show. It's something that we can definitely learn. Like they are always coming back. So I really do hope that Nat comes back and, maybe Lottie has some experiences with her or, can channel her or something like that.
let's not say soap opera. Let's say like psychopompa, psychopompic dead, where she's the psychopomp that comes back. I want her to. I want to get some like. Is she like Master Yoda coming back in a ghost form,
Is
talking
she
about the
Jon Snow
it?
dead?
Is the it the Force, where she comes back talking about, in some Obi-Wan Kenobi old man style type of thing. So let's
Yeah, it's definitely a tough loss. It should be
plot
really interesting to see how each of the characters are impacted from it going forward and where they're gonna go with it.
plot twist. Cabin Daddy is Obi-Wan Kenobi. We've been waiting for you.
Yeah,
I think he said that in Star Wars. That's one of his lines. Like, I've been waiting.
oh my
Oh
heavens.
my goodness. I'm
Okay.
gonna make a stupid video just for giggles.
So, all right. So, last but not least, let's talk about well,
Watch out. You might get what you're after. Burning fire with fire. Burning down the house. Mm-mm. Coach
yeah.
Ben is sneaking up on these bitches. You know what is coming. Cause now they're the witches. So the coven, baby. I don't know.
Yeah, this was crazy. I did not expect this at all. I did not expect this at all. Like for the entire show, this was never something that but what's crazy now looking back, especially in this episode, there's a lot of fire symbolism going on. There's candles everywhere. There's just a ton of fire symbolism going on. And even what I thought was the most interesting was Coach back in his cave trying to light his own fire and he can't light the fire. He's just, he's so like only has primitive everything out there.
It was always burning since the world's been turning. We didn't light it.
We didn't start the fire.
Sorry,
But yeah,
I
and
had it.
so and then he comes back and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go sneak over and like steal some supplies, and that's when he sees them like naming Nat as their queen, and he's pissed because he had tried to get her. He's seen some things this episode. He tried to get her, and we have to think about like, okay, Coach like sneaks in and he's on crutches and stuff. So him sneaking in and the things he's seen, we can only imagine like how many times Javi, who would be much more stealthy, snuck up to see whatever he saw, which is why, I think he probably saw them cannibalize Jackie's body or something like that, where he was like, I'm not going back there, or his friend, quote unquote, his friend. But
Yeah.
anyways,
I think it's gonna. yeah, it's gonna there you're right. Fire symbolism all over. I mean, all over this whole entire season, I think we saw so much fire.
Mhm,
Um, but yeah, I don't think he was like more mad. I think he was more like scared than anything, like, oh, these girls have lost it. And then the moment where Coach Ben goes and gives her a chance and says, come on, I found the tree of life, the tree of knowledge. I found this tree. Come
mhm,
hide out with me. Come with me. You no, you don't belong here. She says, you don't belong here. You're a good person, Ben.
mhm.
But I do. I'm the worst of them all, which, has its own whole realm of symbolism there. But with Ben, I think that it was more of a fear. And then when he came back to like even try to talk to them, he saw them like creating more ritualistic behavior to justify their cannibalism or justify, he felt like the it factor was taken over. Like I think he was more afraid than ever. I do think he's gonna maybe probably die or they're all gonna go after him after this, but at the same time, I I don't know. The whole symbolism of him not starting the fire was just on point to a key. But maybe it was also because I read some stuff online on Reddit, or let me see. I pulled up a guy or someone who said on the Reddit page, but they had mentioned that they thought that it was Misty who started the fire and not Coach Ben because Misty was mad that she didn't get the queen. And I thought that was really interesting. And I'm like, hey, I can't I can't argue that because that's very misty behavior. I can't
That's
like
yeah, that's not I can't argue that either, actually.
yeah. I want it to be Coach Ben. I think that they did it, but we didn't see him actually pull. I mean, we saw him gathering the tools.
We saw him gathering tools, we saw him get the matches. My I had
It's
a
just
weird
fun to
thought of,
think
like,
about,
how did he barricade the doors? Because typically don't I mean, I can't think offhand of if the cabin door opens out or in, but doors usually open in, like inwards. So it was weird that they couldn't get the doors open. But also, even if they did open outwards, like how did he barricade the doors to when while all these girls in there, nobody heard anything, you know? So
Yeah.
like I don't know what he did to barricade the door, if he like nailed it shut. I mean, I don't think it was like stuff outside the door because Ty, once she started going at it with the axe, she was able to get it down. So I don't know. It's a good question of like what's the what did he do, or was it from the inside and not from the outside? That's a great question.
Well, and I think another reason in their so it was on the Yellow Jackets Yellow Jackets Hive Reddit. It was from, let me just, Deduction Power is the one I see right here, and I didn't save the actual person, but it made sense because Misty wanted that, like F you Lottie, and then Misty wanted that power again, so she wanted to take away everything that they had to help them because they need her all the time. But yeah, exactly, we wouldn't put past her. But okay, so the whole symbolism of this is that they're burning down the house. They're starting to birth by fire. We saw Shauna rebirth by fire. We saw a lot of that here, and now we're ending the whole season with being they have to burn down this house. They have to burn down the box that they locked themselves in, and now they're going to start this pilgrimage. I think they're resetting the button and scared, and you can only take what you have with you, like your knowledge, the little things they have, like their blankets. Um, I don't know where they're going to go. Do you think I would say the cranes the pla I can't talk. I'm mumbling my words. The crane flesh. The plane crash. I can't. Oh, here we go. Third time charm. The plane crash site
Yeah.
is where obviously you would think that they have shelter,
Hmm.
but they're gonna all feel the same way like they did. They're gonna have to move. They're gonna have to go. So I think they're gonna start being nomadic type of tribe. And now that they're like when we think about the anthropology of it all, how nations are evolved, how man evolved, how primal we were in the beginning of season one, where they're stuck. And now they've created a queen, they've created a hierarchy, they've created jobs for everybody. Like they're not so primal, not so savage as before. They're giving reason to their rhyme, they're giving reason to their cannibalism. And now they're going to have to give some more reason. So one of the first things that people did was to start being nomadic tribes. So I think it'll be fun if they add that kind of anthropology anthropology type stuff to it. And plus the whole tribe pilgrimage with Buddha, with a lot of the stuff you see in history, all these pilgrimages religiously that people take. It's going to be fun to see. I think that that's a big open, a big turn. Gather what you can and go.
Well, they didn't forget the poop bucket, so that's at least. But and I think Mari got her cooking pot, which I love, you know. Yeah, the whole thing is crazy. Like I don't know what coaches if it's coach. I assume it's coach. I mean, I really think that it is, you know, we saw him gathering the matches and that kind of thing, and I mean there would be no other person that would have the motivation. And
It
if
makes sense, but
it
I
was
just thought
the
it was funny.
wilderness, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, there's maybe, but I feel like we would have seen more hints to it if it was, you know, the wilderness. But we definitely saw hints to it being Coach, and Coach has, you know, reasons. He's first of all, he has said that like he believes these girls are like wild, vicious, you know, little savages and stuff. But and that was even before they've gotten into like some really crazy things. But
How are you going to explain that though? Like when if coach is the one that does survive, or maybe he felt like he wasn't going to survive, but how are you going to explain how all of your students who were girls died?
yeah. Oh, they all died in a house fire and I escaped on one leg. Yeah.
You didn't, and yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, and you know, his being on crutches, he's going to leave tracks, you know, so if the girls are smart, they'll follow the tracks and go find him. And also Nat has, you know, a vague idea of where the tree might be. So,
I
it's
wonder if there
not
was like a
it
metaphor
does.
for like, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I wonder if there's like a metaphor though for the girls being lost in their box, whereas Ben is in the tree of knowledge, and then he tried to perceive that by burning them. Like that's what he was after, because he did see them vicious. He showed up right at the times, but like Nat said, where were you
Mhm.
during during all the conflict? Where was he?
Mhm.
But if you see it from that perspective, that they were just all malicious killing machines to him. I mean, I maybe would have burned them too. I don't blame Coach Ben.
Well, it's a weird thing because, you know, yeah, and then what was he going to do? They're all going to be dead. He doesn't have any food or any help or anyone to like help him, which honestly he needs help. Like he can't go, I mean, he maybe could, but it's going to be hard for him to survive on his own, to hunt, to, you know, capture food and that kind of thing. We don't know who Javi's friend was, or even if they're really a person, or if it was maybe like Ty in her alter state or what have you, but you know,
Yeah.
him killing all the girls is not make it's not really bettering his life. It would be a better source, even if he was living at the cave, to know that they're out there. You know, maybe he did it out of fear. He believed they were going to come and hunt him down, but I don't think they would have the motivation to. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. It's a
So
weird position, or it's a weird
yeah.
conundrum for him to be in, because, you know, he both fears for his life, but he's also trying to like think ahead. And he, you know, going back, we've talked about this several times, where Coach needs to up his mental game. He needs to mentally dominate these girls before they physically dominate him. And so it's a weird thing to toy with.
So in the chat, I think it's exactly how many times do we hear the character say it's not real? So it could not be real. And then I'm sorry. There was a really good comment by I think Dulcinea again. Like, where's Miss? Or let me find it. Dulcinea talking about, oh, Crystal's still unaccounted for, and her body that's
Hmm.
vanished. And a big rule on TV is that nobody means no death. And Coach Ben could be
Hmm.
that 33 red herring. No, he could be the red herring.
Good
We
point.
found love in a Yellowjackets chat. I like that one, JC. And then I think it is also like Coach had to end what the girls Coach thought he had to end what the girls had become, because he thought there was no return or no reason for them. It had to end. And I agree with that. I think that he saw that as an ending. And I think this whole thing is an ending, but yeah, still it's a rebirth. And there was no return. There is no return for the girls. There is no reason. Why are they going to go back to the cabin? There is no reason. There's no cabin. One of my ideas was that the girls will end up back at the cabin, not just the wilderness like Faye and I talked about before, but like they're gonna have to go back to the actual cabin because that spirit entity at the portal to the other realm is there in that Bermuda BC triangle, whatever
Mhm.
that area is. But that cabin doesn't exist anymore. I wonder if it will be fun to see them try to rebuild the cabin, or if them trying to go back to the plane. I think that's going to be like they're going to do it, but they're going to realize, like I said, and it's going to be interesting to see their pilgrimage, what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, who they're going to eat.
Well, and there's also like the idea going back to again, like there's so much tying
There's so
into the
much.
pilot episode here, but Shauna says, if anybody's digging around into our, into our past, then we're all screwed. And so I think, there's like this question that kind of looms of like, was there something? I mean, obviously we've seen some crazy tragic things that have gone on out there, but was there something more? Did someone get left behind? Was it Coach? And this might give them a good reason to okay, now we have a rival. Now we have the other, we have an enemy and that kind of thing. So if they were rescued and, I don't think it's going to obviously it's not going to happen this soon because I think they say they were out there for like 19 months. So we still have some time to go forward, but it is interesting to consider the gigantic smoke signal that's being sent up from where they're at, and so will somebody see that and, wonder like what's going on or come out to try and rescue them and what that might lead to as well.
Yeah, that was one of my thoughts too, because
Hmm.
well, I was when they zoomed out on that scene, I'm like, dang, that's a lot of smoke. And then beyond that, I'm over here like trying to compare it to our map from last episode.
Mhm.
Like, what's where? Who is this? How do I see?
Yeah.
What's this circle? What's this? Is that the glacier? What's
Mhm.
happening here? But it is in the middle of nowhere, and it's just it's gonna be so
Yeah.
much fun.
If
I'm
it,
up for
if it was
it. We're here for it.
if it was another time of year, I mean, there would probably be people around and they watch for forest fires in that area because we get forest fires up here every single year. Every single year there are forest fires. And so, in that there's actually like um what's the word? There's like little huts and stuff where people will go to be fire watchmen that are up
Sharing
high in the
checks.
mountains. Yeah. And so and then they signal down, oh, there's a fire going on up here. Jack Kerouac actually, he wrote Desolation Angels from one of those. So anyways, they have a lot of those up around here. And so if it was a different time of year, they probably would be manned or at least have somebody coming in and checking on things. But at this time of year, they're not going to be concerned about forest fires happening because it's so cold and there's snow and all of that, and it's less populated, so
I there's a movie that I just watched called Those Who Wish Me Dead with Angelina Jolie, Aidan Gillen, and it's about that where she is a firefighter who has to watch the things, and it has a little finger in it if you don't know who Aidan Gillen is, but it is exactly that, and I recommend watching it too. But I just
yeah.
wanted to throw that out because there are, and it tells you the whole way to survive a fire. You learn a lot of these survival skills, and I was like, oh, that's like Yellowjackets. That's like, and then lo and behold, it became like Yellowjackets. But then again, if you ask my husband or my partner, everyone says that everything I do is now Yellowjackets or everything. I see Yellowjackets in everything everywhere. The symbol is everywhere.
Same here. What's so funny is like when Javi was missing, I swear to God, every time I saw a kid walking down the road with like a hat on or something with dark hair, I was like, it's Javi.
Harvey, he's in your head.
He was.
Now he's dead.
Now he's dead. So anyways, guys, we'll probably wrap it up here, but yeah, it was a crazy finale, and a lot of tragic loss and a big transition with Shauna and with Callie and with Lisa and just with everyone. Everyone's kind of gone through it. It was an interesting, place to leave us for a cliffhanger. And yeah, I don't
I
know.
love him.
I
I
don't know
hate him. I
what's
love him
that.
and I hate. I love him and I hate him. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
love and hate. I'm like, oh, what's going on? But what's
Yeah,
gonna go on?
absolutely.
We're still
Um,
figuring out what we're gonna do. I think we're gonna try to do maybe
we're still
every.
Yeah.
every first Monday. We'll let you know, but we do want to release either a parody or a video or have a live stream on a Monday around the
Mhm.
same thing. We keep it hype with the Mondays. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Well, we're gonna keep, yeah, and we'll try and I don't know if we're gonna go live next week or maybe the fall. I don't know, maybe next week. We'll see what happens. I don't know. We're just rolling with the punches, you know.
Yeah,
This is mom life. We just gotta kind of roll with it. And the kids are out for summer, so that makes things a little more interesting. But we will definitely be coming back and keeping the Yellowjackets energy coming your way, and potentially even maybe starting to cover season 1, kind of go through those episodes and just do, a live with you guys for that to see if we find any extra interesting clues on the rewatch. So I don't know.
yeah.
You guys tell us in the chat and in the comments, what you want to see during the off season of Yellowjackets. Do you want us to keep up with Yellowjackets content? And if you have any suggestions for videos or anything specific you want us to deep dive in, I'm all about like the mythology, the symbolism, and that kind of thing, more so than like, your episode reviews and that kind of thing. So whatever you guys think is a hot topic, just let me know.
Yeah, we're working on it, but you can probably expect something on a Monday around this time, around noon,
Yeah.
every Monday. I think we have about 30 videos that we want to address, or at
Mhm.
least ways of videos. We want to, yes, book club is one of them. Book club is coming. I
Yeah.
have been looking at every episode and have a book for literally every episode that we can tie. So that's coming. And then we have some recipe stuff coming. I think we should go back to season 1. Faye and I haven't really talked about it yet, but um yeah, we'll talk about it and we'll let you guys know. Like right
Yeah.
now, like she said, the kids are out on summer vacation, so we have to do some mom things. So we might be like streaming once a month, or either way, you're gonna get lots of content. So don't worry about content. That's coming.
Yeah. And we'll be around on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff, getting some stuff out for you guys. But I do.
She'll be around. I don't
Oh,
I don't
like Twitter.
twatter. I mean Twitter. I mean twatter. I mean what? No.
No, we will. We'll be getting some stuff out to you guys, and I love doing my Monday mornings with you guys. It's just kind of become routine at this point. So hopefully we can keep it up and keep the energy going. Even in
I
the off
love it.
season, the
I love
hiatus
Monday.
can be a hard time for all of us. We're going to be wandering souls without a home. Our home has been burned to the ground.
Hey, we didn't start the fire. It was always burning.
We didn't start the fire. We gotta go find Coach Ben. What was he gonna do? Was he gonna eat all the kids? Like, I know he's not gonna cannibalize people, but boy, once you get hungry and like your legs, you got one leg, come on, go. Like, if he was gonna burn all those girls, I would at least hope that he was gonna eat them. I don't know. Is
Yeah.
that too much?
Well, I'm glad. Grab your blankets, get your crowns. Let's hold on for this long pilgrimage until season 3. And it
Mhm.
has been really just a pleasure. This we've gotten a lot more views and comments, and people joining the hive mind for us than we thought we would.
Yeah.
So it's really
I think so.
great, and I love it. I love this group. I love Yellowjackets. Thank you to the writers. Thank you to the show. And I guess maybe we'll see you next week, because I feel like we have a lot to talk about overtones.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna be back next week. I feel like we're gonna try to not, and then we're gonna be like, nope, we gotta go. We gotta do this. So, but
Yeah. Well,
it will be. I do want to focus on getting some videos out, and sometimes doing the lives can kind of distract from that, just because it's takes some time to prepare and all of that. Not that I don't love doing it, but I do want to get more videos out to you guys, and I will have a Cali video out this week, probably, hopefully tomorrow maybe. uh so keep an eye out for that. And I did just put out a video yesterday, You Are What You Eat, going over a lot of the details throughout season 2. So if you haven't gotten a chance to watch that, definitely go check it out, share it with your friends, and all the fun things. And of course, if you're enjoying this live stream, like the thing, hit the thumbs up and hit the subscribe. And we're always here talking about Yellowjackets and other awesome stuff. So, but we're gonna wrap it up now.
Jackie.
So thank you all so
Jackie.
much I have enjoyed covering Yellowjackets this season and being here with you guys and just enjoying the crew. And you guys are amazing, the fellow jackets and citizen detectives alike. So
Yes, maybe we can do a live stream focusing on one character at a time. I think we should. I think we're going to.
I
We
like
just
that.
need to put it in the order, one character, and then one season 1, 2. I think we should probably go back to that too. Thank you
Yeah.
guys for everything.
Let's see here. Oh, Andy, no, I do not have a Reddit. I have Twitter. Reddit is too much. I just get lost. And also
It's
I've
a
tried
lot.
having a Reddit and I just like do a terrible job of setting up my account. And so anyways, whatever. I just don't do Reddit. It's too much. It's too much for me. But I have Twitter, which I also should not even be on, and then Instagram. So but my main place, you know, for everything, like my main focus as a creator is always on YouTube. So this is where you guys are going to find my most of my stuff, my best content. And of course I have a Patreon and channel memberships here. So if you guys want some exclusive benefits and just, you know, some chat and updates and all that kind of stuff, then definitely join either the Patreon or the channel memberships. It's like $3 a month. So yeah. But you guys are amazing. I love you all. And I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss Yellowjackets new episode.
We'll be back shortly. We'll be back shortly.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere.
All right,
you guys. Well, thank you so much for everything. And we will see you next week, maybe, or very soon after that. Thank you all. Oh, wait. Hold on.
Jackie out. Come on, girl. I've said it like 5 times now.
Hold on. We didn't.
I like Angel's question. Do you think season 3 will start off in winter?
And Jackie's out of here. We didn't start the fire.
Jackie chicharrones are the only way home. Right, whatever.
We didn't start the fire, but we're eating earlobes and we're knocking corpses over. Okay, bye guys. Love you. Happy Monday.